In episode 39 of the CySec101 training series, we're going to go through the defensive security introduction, and this is a part of the defensive security module that includes things like the SOC Fundamentals, digital forensics, incident response fundamentals, and of course log fundamentals. So this is all about defensive security, and in a little bit we're going to go through the defensive security tooling as well. And we just wrapped the offensive security tooling, and all of this is a part of the Cybersecurity 101 pathway of TryHackMe. So there's a lot of great stuff that we've covered so far, especially inside of the CySec 101 playlist that you are watching right now. And we're going to start really talking about defensive security. And so if you're interested in defensive security, if you want to become a security analyst, if you want to become a SOC analyst, any of those things, this would be the exact module for you. If you'd like to support this channel, consider joining Hackaholics Anonymous, the premier community for security professionals and hackers. We have 4 tiers: the supporter, agent, guardian, and master. Each tier gets their own Discord server and early access to content. The agent, guardian, and master levels get exclusive content, exclusive downloads, bug bounties, monthly Python automations, live streams with me every single month, plus so much more. And to join, you can simply click the link in the description below, or you can go to our homepage and click the join button there, or you can go to youtube.com/@HankHacksHackers/join, and you'll be able to join Hackaholics Anonymous. Now, without further ado, let us jump into the defensive security introduction. Okay, in the previous rooms, we learned about offensive security and offensive security tooling, and the concept or the purpose of offensive security is to identify and exploit system vulnerabilities to enhance security measures. So we think like a hacker, essentially, and we do penetration testing, and we attack all of the systems to try to find vulnerabilities. And this includes the exploitation, so exploiting software bugs. It includes leveraging insecure setups, taking advantage of unenforced access control policies, and a lot, I mean, literally dozens and dozens of other strategies. And that is done by the red team. So when you think about offense, think about red, and penetration testing, you think about red. So red teaming and penetration testing is the specialization of the offensive security and offensive security techniques and tactics and procedures. In this particular room and in this series of videos that are going to be coming up, the next 4 or 5 videos, and especially when we go into the offensive security tooling section, so for defensive security, when we go into the defensive security tooling section, and for the purpose of this module that we're in right now, which is the defensive security module, we're going to examine the counterpart of offensive security, which is defense, right? So you have offense and then you have defense. And then this is also considered to be blue teaming, right? So you have blue teams who are focusing on defense and the defensive security landscape. And it's things like preventing intrusions from occurring and detecting intrusions when they occur and responding appropriately to those situations. So you have OffSec and you have defensive security. So offensive security, defensive security, red teaming, blue teaming. That's kind of what it's like. And they go hand in hand. They're essentially 2 sides of the same security coin. So some of the tasks that are related to defense is the cybersecurity awareness, right? So user cybersecurity awareness has to do with just training the end user about cybersecurity, and then that actually ends up helping to protect against attacks targeting their systems or phishing attacks, which are literally trying to take advantage of the human element and manipulate humans. Then there's the documenting and managing of assets, and we need to know the systems and devices that we must manage and protect adequately, and that's also known as the scope, right? So what is the scope of all of the systems and assets that you need to protect? And then we need to ensure that computer servers and network devices are correctly updated and patched against any known vulnerabilities or weaknesses. And this is the updating and patching of these systems. And then, of course, the firewalls or intrusion prevention systems, or SIEMs, SIEM. You can also pronounce it as a SIEM, but usually people pronounce it as a SIM, and that's the security information and event management software. So there's a lot of different security devices or security appliances that we can think about, and firewalls and intrusion prevention systems are kind of like the absolute basics. And then if you really want to go further ahead, you think about SIMs, right? So you set these things up, and these are actual real components, like very critical components of preventative security, defensive security. Firewalls control what network traffic can go in and and what can leave the system or the network. And intrusion prevention systems block any network traffic that matches the preset rules or attack signatures or anomalies based on patterns and behaviors, and it blocks it from actually entering and doing whatever it is that they're trying to do. So you can, it can actually detect an IP address that is scanning your network, for example. A firewall, blocks people from getting in, or blocks a certain IP address from getting in, or it'll block everybody, and it'll explicitly allow a handful of people or a handful of protocols to actually enter. So it's very much rule-based. Intrusion prevention looks at something that may happen. So somebody's scanning your network, and they're already in the network, right? They've already bypassed the firewall. That's how they're actually scanning your network. So as they're scanning the network, the intrusion prevention system is like, hey, I'm noticing this thing is happening. We need to block this from taking place. So I'm just going to block these IP addresses that seem to be pinging us, or they seem to be scanning us, or they seem to be just fill in the blank, right? They're doing something that, based on the attack signature, based on what database the IPS is connected to, it says, hey, this signature is associated with these sets of attacks, and based on that, just based on that rule alone, I'm going to block these IP addresses because it seems like they're trying to attack us. They're just trying to do something that they shouldn't be doing. And then, of course, logging and monitoring. And logging and monitoring is one of these concepts that you're going to hear so frequently and so much, and it's a repetitive concept. It is evergreen. It will happen indefinitely as long as cybersecurity around. You are going to see logs, you're going to hear about logs and the various sources of logs, and then there are going to be monitoring devices that will ingest those logs, because to try to sift and sort through all of those line items inside those logs is going to take a lot of effort. Even if you know programming, and even if you write scripts and all that stuff, it still takes effort to write those scripts and to troubleshoot the scripts to make sure that they actually work, and then run the scripts. So all of those things actually take time and energy and expertise. Or you can use something like a SIM, like Splunk or Wazoo, and then, or Kibana, ElkStack, right? It'll ingest all of those logs, and then it'll give you alerts in case it notices anything that might be phishing. So, logging and monitoring, they're essential for detecting malicious activity and intrusions. If a new unauthorized device appears on your network, we should be able to detect it, and that would be part of the authentication log, for example. So there's a lot of different sources of logs. It's a pretty massive concept, and that's why we have an entire video that's going to be dedicated to it in 3 or 4 videos from now. So there is much more to defensive security. Obviously, this is just an introduction to this. So aside from above the concepts that we just talked about right now, we're also going to cover the Security Operations Center, which is known as the SOC. And then a lot of these jobs that you'll see in defensive security are things like the SOC analyst, or SOC level 1, SOC level 2, things like that. Then there's threat intelligence, also known as CTI, which is the cyber threat intelligence, and the various threat intelligence feeds and the sources that you can actually get the most current threat intelligence, and what the vulnerabilities are that have been exploited, or what the attacks are that were recently caught and documented. The attack groups, the persistent, advanced persistent threat groups, and these various threat actors that do what they do. It's all part of threat intelligence. Digital forensics and incident response is after the attack has happened, right? So security operations and the security analyst is in a live environment trying to detect something as it's happening. Digital forensics and incident response is after the attack has happened, and we need to do forensics to try to investigate what the hell just happened to us and respond to that incident accordingly. Incident response can also actually be something that does happen in a live environment, but it's typically these terms are associated with investigations that happen after the incident has occurred, and we're trying to backtrack and see what just happened to us. And then, of course, there's malware analysis, which has a lot to do with knowing source code, really. There are dynamic malware analysis tools that will actually help you analyze the source code and help you analyze the malware. And now these days, there's also, the Gemini and Meta and GPT AIs. And I mean, there are so many different AIs, language models that can actually help you analyze malware. But for the most part, you still need to have a good idea of what you're looking at when you're analyzing malware, just so you can see what it does and really how to avoid it or how to stop it from attacking your system. Even if you don't know what malware you're looking at or what the source code does, at the very least, if you can get the checksums of it, the hash values of it, and compare it against a database like VirusTotal, which is a threat intelligence source. If you can check the hash values of the malware source code or the malware file, then what you can do is you can essentially program your defensive security appliances, all of these tools that are available for you, to be like, hey, if you notice anything that has this hash value, just automatically block it. If you notice an email that has an attachment to it that has this hash value, automatically block it. We think that this is obviously, the hash value is technically like a signature that belongs to that file. So if you notice it, block it. We think that it's malicious and we don't want it to even get a chance to enter our network and enter our emails and etc. So which team focuses on defensive security? And that would be the blue team. Which team focuses on offensive security? That would be the red team. So everything that we're going to be talking about in today's video and all of the videos that are coming up are all going to be about the blue team, which is the defensive security team. Now, inside of defensive security, we have subcategories, right? We have various teams inside of the blue team. And these two teams, at the very least, we can break it down to two teams. And one of them is going to be the Security Operations Center team, where we cover threat intelligence and analysis and monitoring things as they happen. And then the other one is the Digital Forensics and Incident Response team, where we also cover malware analysis, and it's more about investigations and dealing with things after they have happened. So the Security Operations Center, also known as the SOC, is a team of cybersecurity professionals that monitor the network and its systems to detect malicious cybersecurity events. And some of the main areas of interest for the SOC are vulnerabilities, policy violations, unauthorized activity, and network intrusions. And these things, we can, go into the details of them, but it just goes so much deeper than these little paragraphs. But a vulnerability is essentially a weakness in your system or in your network, and when it's discovered, it needs to be fixed depending on how critical or severe it is. Some vulnerabilities could be low severity, like informational, and some of them are super critical, and if they're exploited, your entire network is at risk and people can steal data from you, they can hold you at ransom. So these things, though obviously the ones that have the highest severity and the highest criticality are the ones that need to be addressed immediately. And then the ones that are, from a 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, the level 1 is not as big of a deal as the level 8 or 9 or 10. So you address all the high severity ones first, and then you move down the line essentially. When a fix is unavailable, the necessary measures should be taken to prevent the attacker from exploiting that vulnerability, like maybe shutting down that service altogether. And all the remediating vulnerabilities is vital to the SOC. It's not necessarily assigned to the SOC. It could be something that would be assigned to the security engineering team. The SOC would be a team that notices these vulnerabilities. The red team would be the team that is trying to actively find these vulnerabilities and exploit them so that they can backtrack and figure out how to remediate them, how to mitigate them. But the vulnerability, as far as the SOC is concerned, the vulnerability is for the SOC to notice, really. It's there to kind of analyze as the logs happen and as the events happen inside of the network. The SOC team is just looking and say, hey, it seems to be that there's a vulnerability that we just discovered, and then they just pass that on to the appropriate team so that they can mitigate and remediate it. Policy violations has everything to do with compliance and regulations and, of course, the internal policies of the company. So it might be a policy violation if a user uploads confidential company data to an online storage device. It's like, what are you doing? You shouldn't be doing that. We have internal storage for a reason. We have our own databases and data servers for a reason. There is no reason why you should be using an online storage device that, like, I don't know, Dropbox or something, especially if you're using it on your own personal email that's associated with your Google Drive or Dropbox. That's a big policy violation. You should not be doing that. You shouldn't be using your work computer to watch Netflix. That's like a policy violation. There's just so many different types of policy violations. And of course, the really, really critical ones are you shouldn't be disclosing our customers' information to people. You shouldn't be talking about them. You shouldn't be taking customer files home with you if you don't work from home. There are a lot of the reasons that people get their data stolen, and some of them could just be that people are literally violating the company's policy by taking data with them that they shouldn't be taking with them. Unauthorized activity is, I mean, it could be so many things. So users' login name and password are stolen. The attacker uses them to log into the network. The SOC, the Security Operations Center, has to detect and block such an event as soon as possible before further damage is done. And a lot of these things could be based on rule-based access control, meaning if the user's login name and password is stolen and somebody's using that login name and password, so the user works out of the Los Angeles office and somebody's using those credentials to log in from Europe. It's like, okay, well, that's definitely against our geolocation rules, and that should not even be allowed, right? So, or at the very least, if it does happen, there needs to be an alert that goes off that says, hey, this credential for this person that is out of Los Angeles, California, is now being used in a different country. You need to pay attention to this immediately and stop it before any damage is done. Network intrusion would be, it's something that happens. And one of the big things is somebody just clicks on a link in an email that they shouldn't, and then now the network is exposed. So no matter how good the security is, there's always a chance for an intrusion. An intrusion can occur when a user clicks on a malicious link. I literally just said this. Or when an attacker exploits a public server. Either way, when an intrusion occurs, we must detect it as soon as possible to prevent further damage. And all of these things are responsibilities of the SOC team, right? Their job is to notice these things, detect them, and generate alerts, pass on the notice as soon as they possibly can to the appropriate team so that the remediation and mitigations are done immediately. The security operations cover various tasks to ensure protection, and one of them is threat intelligence. So threat intelligence in this specific context refers to information that you gather about an actual or potential enemy, and a threat is any action that can disrupt or adversely affect a system. Threat intelligence collects information to help the company better prepare against those adversaries, and the purpose would be to achieve a threat intelligence or threat-informed defense, right? So you have a lot of intel, and based on the intel that you've gathered, you develop your defense. And different companies have different adversaries. Some adversaries might seek to steal customer data from a mobile operator. Other adversaries are interested in halting the production in a petroleum refinery. Other adversaries are trying to hold you at ransom and just get money out of you. Example adversaries could be a nation-state cyber army working for political reasons, or a ransomware group acting for financial purposes. Based on the company, the target that's being attacked, we can expect the various types of adversaries. So a government agency would probably have a nation-state cyber army that is very well funded for another nation that's trying to attack that government agency. A corporate entity most likely is going to be held at ransom because whoever's trying to hack them wants money out of them, right? So just based on the target themselves, you can try to anticipate what types of adversaries will try to attack them. So intelligence needs data. Data has to be collected, processed, and analyzed. And data is collected from local sources like the network logs and public sources like forums or MITRE ATT&CK framework, the MITRE ATT&CK matrix, or the NIST databases, or the CVE, CVSS databases, or just fill in the blank, VirusTotal. There are so many different intelligence sources that are extremely powerful and very, very useful. Data processing arranges that data into a format that's suitable for analysis, and the analysis phase seeks to find more information about the attackers and their motives. Therefore, it aims to create a list of recommendations and actionable steps after it is analyzed and ingested all of that intelligence. Learning about your adversaries lets you know their tactics, their techniques, and their procedures. As a result of threat intelligence, we identify the threat actor and the adversary and predict their activity. Consequently, we can mitigate their attacks and prepare a response strategy. Digital forensics and incident response is where this comes in. Now, this again is usually, incident response is usually, it can be in a live environment when an attack is taking place and we want to respond to that incident immediately. Digital forensics is definitely after the attack has taken place, the dust has settled, and we need to investigate what just happened. So incident response, it could definitely be in a live environment. Digital forensics is usually after the attack has been mitigated and the incident has been responded to, and now we need to investigate to see what happened. So this is about the digital forensics, DFIR. And so digital forensics, incident response, and malware analysis would be the three different topics here. Forensics is the application of science to investigate crimes and establish facts with the use and spread of digital systems like computers and smartphones. A new branch of forensics was born to investigate related crimes, and that would be computer forensics, which later evolved into digital forensics. In defensive security, the focus of digital forensics shifts to analyzing evidence of an attack and the perpetrators and other areas such as intellectual property theft, espionage, and possession of unauthorized content. Consequently, digital forensics will focus on different areas like the file system, the system memory, which is the volatile memory in the system that usually gets wiped when you restart the system, the system logs, network logs, right? These are the general areas that digital forensics will typically focus on. So the file system is essentially the storage on the actual computer that will not be wiped if you restart that computer. So there's the forensic image, which is the low-level copy of a system storage that reveals a lot of information like the installed program, created files, partially overwritten files, and deleted files. The system memory is in the memory, meaning in the RAM. So without actually saving it to the disk, which would end up here, it's being run from memory. And you take a forensic image of the low-level copy of this, it is actually the best way to analyze the contents and learn about the attack. But again, a lot of times, if the system gets restarted, the RAM is wiped. The random access memory, which is the volatile memory, gets wiped. So you need to get this image, this forensic disk image, before that computer is turned off, or the power goes out, or the battery on the computer dies, or for whatever reason somebody restarts that computer. You need to get your disk image immediately. This is more important than this. The file system memory will not be wiped if you restart the computer. The random access memory, the volatile memory of the computer, will be wiped if the computer is restarted or power is lost. So this is much more important than this because it's much more volatile and we can lose this data. And if the attacker has put their program in memory without actually saving it to the disk, we will lose all of that data if the system restarts. System logs are one of those other things that they're pretty much in the system. So as you get your file system disk image, the copy of the disk, then you should be good. You should also have the logs as well. And the client, which would be the computer itself, and the server that is connecting to, all of these entities maintain different log files about what is actually happening. And these things provide a lot of information about what happened on the system. Even if the attacker tries to clear their traces, there will be some kind of a trace remaining, meaning there was an attempt to clear their traces, right? There was an attempt that somebody made to wipe a certain log file. All of these things will actually be generated. The network log is the network packets, right? So the connections inside of your local area network. This could be a variety of different types of network packets that have been captured, the frames of the network that have been captured, the data segments or the datagrams specifically, depending on the protocol that was being used. All of these things are a part of the network log. The network log typically looks at your entire network, meaning all of the clients and all of the servers that are connected to the network. The system logs look at the individual devices themselves and the activity on those devices. The network logs look at the traffic that went around your network, and if somebody goes from one computer to another computer to another computer, that's usually inside of the network logs. And then ingesting both of these sets of logs inside of Splunk or inside of Kibana will allow the software to make the connections, to make the correlations for you and be like, oh, there's this specific set of activity that's been going on across your network, across these servers and these clients that seems fishy. And it all traces back to, this one IP address or these series of IP addresses, and it happened during this specific period in time and from this geolocation, etc., etc. So there's correlation that takes place when you combine all of your log sources into one software like Splunk, and then that helps you with your analysis and digital forensics. Incident response is covering the actual incident that is taking place. So an incident usually refers to some kind of a breach or a cyber attack. However, it can also be something less critical, like the misconfiguration or an intrusion attempt or a policy violation. These could all be incidents. Example of a cyber attack include an attacker making our network or system inaccessible, also known as a denial of service. They could be defacing, which means changing the public website, but essentially it's like digital graffiti. Or there's a data breach, right? They actually steal company data, or they come and they encrypt all of your data on your servers, and they say, if you want us to give you the decryption code, you need to pay us some money. So these are all incidents. So how do you respond to a cyber attack? That's where incident response comes in. And there's usually a playbook that is available, especially if you go into an established company. If you're working for a small business and they don't have any of this stuff set up, you would most likely be responsible to establish that playbook. But for the most part, if you're working for Coca-Cola or Google or Facebook or whatever, they're going to have some kind of an incident response playbook that specifies the methodology that should be followed, who you should be calling. It's known as a call tree, that if something happens, you need to call these 7 people to let them know exactly what's going on as you respond to the situation, right? The playbook itself and that methodology aims to reduce the damage and recover in the shortest time possible, meaning get back to business as usual, get your systems back to operational status, and you would develop a plan that is ready for incident response, also known as the playbook and the incident response plan. The 4 major phases of the incident response process are preparation, detection and analysis, containment, eradication, and recovery, and then post-incident activity. The preparation portion of it has to do with just planning, right? So you have your team trained, you know who is responsible for what is the call tree, who do we actually call, do we have a playbook in place, what do we do to prevent things from happening? But in the event that it actually does happen, well, how can we detect and analyze the incident as it's going on? So who is the team that is responsible for this? Do they actually have the resources to detect the incident? And can they analyze and detect the incident further to learn about its severity before it goes off, before the attack really starts taking place? And if the attack has already started and we know where it is in our network segment, so let's say it's isolated to one device, can we contain it in that one device? Let's say it's inside of a network segment. Could we contain it inside of that virtual LAN, that VLAN, before they hop into another VLAN, right? So containment and isolation is really all about making sure that whoever is attacking your system and they're already inside your network doesn't get the opportunity to go somewhere else. You need to keep them in that environment so that they can't damage anything else. And once you have contained them, once you've isolated them, you need to eradicate them. You need to get them out of your system, eradicate any malware or anything that they may have left behind, wipe the system if necessary, and recover from your most recent healthy backup, right? You boot your systems from your most recent healthy backup before any kind of vulnerability was exploited or before any kind of infestation occurred, so to speak. So once it's detected, it's crucial to stop it from affecting any other system, eliminate it, and recover the affected system. So we notice that a system is infected with a computer virus. We would like to stop or contain the virus from spreading to other systems. We would like to clean or eradicate the virus from any system and ensure proper system recovery. And a lot of times, if you aren't sure exactly what to do or how deep the virus goes, you can just literally wipe the system entirely and go back to factory settings and then just boot from one of your more recent backups. And post-incident recovery or post-incident activity is something like the lessons learned. The lessons learned element is very important, right? So what did we learn from what just happened? How can we make sure this doesn't happen again? How can we prevent similar future incidents from taking place, right? You don't do this while you're still in this phase. After you've done everything and everything's been recovered and you've tested it and your systems are all good, that's when you go into the lessons learned element and you're like, all right, so what did we learn? What is our post-incident lessons that we can take away from this? And then how do we add that to our manual, right? How do we add that to our playbook to make sure that it doesn't happen again? And all of these things go hand in hand. So this is what you see right here, and this is cyclical, right? So this is continuous. You'll hear this word a lot as well. This is a continuous process. It's a never-ending process. You prepare, you detect and analyze, you contain, eradicate, and recover, detect and analyze again, and make sure that this piece is all good before you move on to post-incident. And if you've confirmed and you've tested your systems and everything is good, then you go into post-incident activity, lessons learned, and then you come back and you add all of your lessons learned back to your preparation step. And then from there, you make sure that that specific incident that just happened to you doesn't happen again. It's very likely that you're going to get attacked again, but at the very least, what just happened shouldn't happen again. So malware analysis is the other element of this. So malware could be malicious software, or it stands for malicious software. And software refers to programs, it refers to documents, files that can be saved on a disk or sent over the network. It could be something that's inside a USB drive, and the USB drive was dropped inside the parking lot to arouse somebody's curiosity, and somebody was stupid enough to fall for it, and they plugged that USB drive into their work computer, and now that virus is going to spread from their computer to the rest of your network. So a virus is a piece of code or a part of a program that attaches itself to a program, and it's designed to spread from one computer to another and works by altering, overwriting, and deleting files once it affects a computer or infects a computer. The result ranges from the computer becoming slow to unusable. Trojan horse is something that shows one desirable function but hides a malicious function, very similar to the Trojan horse that was, I think Troy used it to attack Greece or something like that. For example, a victim might download a video player from a shady website that gives the attacker complete control over their system. I don't know why they would do that, but they could possibly do that. People can be silly like that. And from the IT team's perspective, you should block all access to websites like this, a shady website, for example. You should be blocking all access to anything like that. Deny all of the access to any website that is not in a white list of websites that people can access. They shouldn't even be able to access anything else, right? Ransomware is a malicious program that encrypts the user's files, and the encryption makes the files unreadable without knowing the encryption password or having the key. And the attacker offers the user the encryption password if the user is willing to pay them a ransom. So these are the most common types of malware that you will most likely hear about. So malware analysis has two versions of it. There's static analysis, where you actually look at the program without running it, and this requires solid knowledge of assembly languages, meaning the processor's instruction set, the computer's fundamental instructions, source code analysis. If you don't know how to read code, you'll probably have a hard time with this. Dynamic analysis works by running the malware in some kind of a controlled environment and then monitoring what it does and how it actually reacts inside of your system. It lets you observe how the malware behaves when running it, and it needs to be done inside of a this is very, very important. It needs to be inside of a controlled environment. We call this controlled environment a sandbox. So it needs to be ran inside of a sandbox or a controlled environment in case it actually, unleashes and goes crazy. You don't want it to get out of that system. You want it to be contained inside of that system. Imagine on the screen you see this thing that's just like running back and forth. You don't want it to be able to leave this screen. You don't want it to be able to leave this system. That's one of the key elements of dynamic analysis. You run the actual malware. Therefore, you need to do it inside of a contained environment. So what would you call a team of cybersecurity professionals that monitor a network and its systems for malicious events? This would be the SOC, the Security Operations Center. What does DFIR stand for? It stands for Digital Forensics Incident Response. What kind of malware requires the user to pay money, otherwise known as a ransom, to gain access? So ransomware, right? And that's it. So now we can actually move on to our practical example of defensive security. All right, so here's the scenario. So let's pretend you are a Security Operations Center analyst. You're a SOC analyst, and you're responsible for protecting a bank. The bank's SOC uses a security information event management, so the SIM tool that we were talking about earlier, which gathers security-related information and events from various sources and presents them in one dashboard, which is very user-friendly. We love SIM tools. They're amazing. So if the SIM finds something suspicious, an alert is going to be generated. And this is kind of what it looks like, right? This is fine. So Danny executed binary file for image, whatever. Alice logged in at 3 a.m. That's kind of shady. Bob made 5 failed login attempts. I mean, all right, fine. That could be, normal, right? It could be something that, maybe he forgot his password or something. He just came back from vacation. Maybe that's an issue. It shouldn't be 5. Like after 3 failed login attempts, we call that rate limiting. After 3 failed login attempts, the guy should not be able to make another login attempt. His account should be locked out, and he needs to talk to his manager or the IT team to unlock his account. Charlie logged in from a new location. That's all. So these are all different types of alerts that could potentially be hazardous, right? So if they're executing a binary file and it's called image.jpg, but it is an actual execute, like it's an exe file, that means there's something happening in the background. He's not just opening that image. Let me see if I can open this. Okay, there we go. He's not just opening this image. He thinks he's opening an image, but when he opens it, it's actually an executable file. So that's not good. So this is a binary file execution. That's an alert that we need to know about. Why is Alice logging in at 3 a.m.? Is Alice even, I mean, it's outside of business hours, obviously, number one. But number two is it could be somebody from a different country that's running in a different time zone that's trying to log in as Alice outside of business hours. And now the system's like, okay, well, there's a login at 3 a.m. Why is this even happening? If there are 5 failed login attempts, it could be normal. It could be the guy came back from vacation, but it's probably somebody trying to do a brute force attack using Bob's username, and they're trying to find his password, so they're using a brute force attack. And then Charlie logging in from a new location is another. It's like very similar to what happened with Alice. It's like, okay, why are you logging in from a new location? So there are so many things that can, first of all, mitigate against these things actually happening. So the rate limiting to make sure that nothing past 3 login attempts can even be done. Preventing the critical systems from being accessed based on the time zone of the person, so that outside of normal business hours they can't access it. If somebody's trying to log in from a new location, there should be some kind of multi-factor authentication element that's taking place. That's like, okay, well, if it is Charlie, he should have some kind of a multi-factor authentication to verify himself. If not, it should not even be possible. They shouldn't be able to log in from a new location. So these are all actual alerts that may actually pop up on the dashboard of your SIM. So this is what we're going to look at, right? So it says not all alerts are malicious. However, it's up to the analyst to use their expertise in cybersecurity to investigate which ones are actually harmful. For example, you may encounter an alert where a user has failed multiple login attempts. While suspicious, this kind of thing happens, especially if the user has forgotten their password and continues to try to log in. Additionally, there might be alerts related to connections from unknown IP addresses. An IP address is like a home address for your computer on the internet. It tells other computers where to send the information that you request. When these addresses are unknown, it could mean that someone new is trying to connect, or someone is attempting unauthorized access. It could be one of those two, right? Like maybe the user got a new computer, and the new computer that they got was assigned a new IP address, and now that new IP address is trying to access your web application. That could be a legitimate thing, but it could also be somebody from an unauthorized source trying to log in. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a simulated SIM environment, and then we're going to go through the exercise and basically run through the exercise so we can get the flag. We've discussed the different subfields, SOC threat intelligence, continue learning by, okay, so these are just what we should be doing after this room, which is essentially what's going to happen as we go along with the rest of our defensive security module. So this is all going to be great, and I'm very, very excited to share these future videos with you. But for now, what we need to do is we need to go ahead and run this static site that we got so that we can go ahead and get ourselves some cool information. So let me zoom out a little bit more, and then we'll be able to see this right here. Let me see if I can zoom in right here. Okay, great. So it says inspect the alerts in your SIM dashboard, find the malicious IP address from the alerts, make a note of it, and then click on the alert to proceed. So successful SSH authentication attempt to port 22 from IP address unauthorized connection attempt, John Doe logged in successfully, multiple failed login attempts from John Doe, log on failure, specified account password has expired. So this is the one piece that is actually red. So red, and then all these things being green. I'm just going to say this is the issue. And so it says check by IP address. Oh, shoot. Okay, so let me zoom back out and let me close this. Let me see if I can restart this, because I think I was supposed to register that IP address. So here we go. So it says unauthorized from IP address 143 . So can I, yeah, there we go. I can highlight this. Oh my gosh. is the golly, I need to figure out a way to, I'm just going to open up a note document on my other window, and then we will just jot down that IP address and then make that work. Okay, so let's restart this one more time, or I refresh the page, but whatever, same thing. We'll just go here, and then we'll click on view site, and then there it is. So this is what it is, right? So 143.110, this is the unauthorized. So 143.110.250.149, that's the IP address. And there we go. So that's the one. And so now we want to do 143.110.250.149. And I forgot the 3 here, so 143. Submit that. So this was found in the database. Confidence of IP being malicious is 100%. Okay, great. So that's that. So now next. So we shouldn't worry too much if it was a failed authentication attempt, but you probably noticed a successful authentication attempt from the malicious IP address. Let's declare a small incident and escalate it. There's some great staff working. Who do we send this to, basically? Sales executive? No. Security consultant? Probably. Information security architect? Maybe. SOC team lead? I'll say this guy. He's the SOC team lead. So there we go. All right, cool. You got the permission to block the malicious IP, and now you can proceed and implement the block rule. So this is what we got, right? This is our current block list. So we need to go ahead and block this guy. 143.110.250.149 is the IP address that I'm blocking. And that's it. That was our sim exercise. Very simple, very easy to do. And that is our flag. And then we copy that and then go over here and then paste it at the bottom right here. And we have officially completed our introduction to defensive security. This is not complicated. Like, if you've never done this before, I can understand there might be a little bit of a learning curve, but for the most part, this is not complicated to do. Most of it is common sense. A few things you need to kind of wrap your head around a little bit, but once you get the hang of those things, the rest of it is very, very simple to do. So that was it for our defensive security introduction. I hope you got some value out of it, because this was honestly, it's a very fun world, right? Defensive security, especially if you go through the OffSec stuff, the penetration testing stuff, and the ethical hacking stuff. When you go through that stuff, you start noticing that defensive security is kind of easy. Like, relatively, it's pretty freaking easy compared to pen testing and things like that. So I hope you got value out of it. This was really exciting. This is actually a free room. I should probably mention that at the top of this video. Anybody can actually access this room, go through it, and even launch that little practice exercise that we just did. If you would like to get more videos like this one, make sure that you like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so that you get notified the next time that a video comes out, especially in the CySec101 playlist that we have right now. And we're going to be wrapping this playlist fairly soon. There's a Network Plus playlist that I've been working on over the last couple of weeks, which I just finished recording all of the lecture portions of it. And then I'm going to be recording all of the practical elements of it, all the different tools to train somebody to be a network engineer and network administrator. And then after that, we have the AI and cybersecurity integration videos, and that training series that's going to prepare you to train AI and integrate the API of AI into all these different tools to actually automate your security administration and create, automated security admins, which is a very, very big deal. So all of these things are in the near future. So make sure that you actually like and subscribe and turn on the notification bell so that you actually get notified when those videos come out. And of course, drop a comment if you have any questions, if you just want to say hi, if you just want to say thanks. And you can always say thanks by supporting this channel and joining Hackaholics Anonymous, the premier community for security professionals and hackers. We have 4 tiers: the supporter, agent, guardian, and master. Each tier gets their own Discord server and early access to content. The agent, guardian, and master levels get exclusive content, bug bounties, exclusive downloads, monthly Python automations, live streams with me every single month, plus so much more. And to join, you can simply click the link in the description below, or you can go to our homepage and click the join button there. Or you can go to youtube.com/@HankHacksHackers/join, and you'll be able to join Hackaholics Anonymous. I hope I see you in the Discord servers. If not, I hope I see you in the comment section. And that's it. It's your boy Hank Hackerson at Hank Hacks Hackers, your favorite network and system attacker/protector. If no one else loves you, Hank loves you. Love, peace, and chicken grease. And I'll see you in the next video later. In episode 40 of the CySec101 training series, we're going to go through the fundamentals of the SOC, which is the Security Operations Center, and we're going to be talking about a lot of great things about this specific concept. It's a very, very big deal because you will probably get a SOC analyst job or become a part of the SOC team as your very first job in cybersecurity. And this is all part of the defensive security module and the cybersecurity 101 pathway of TryHackMe. And as a part of this specific video, we're going to obviously go through the introduction to the SOC. We're going to talk about the purpose of the SOC and the various components of it, people being involved, the processes involved, the technology that's involved. And of course, there's a practical exercise that we're going to do where we're going to simulate what it's like to actually do some work inside of a security operations center. And then I have the conclusion for you, some final notes, a little bit of homework and final thoughts. And then that'll be it, and you'll be dismissed for today's video. So that being said, if you'd like to support this channel, consider joining Hackaholics Anonymous, the premier community for security professionals and hackers. We have 4 tiers: the supporter, agent, guardian, and master, and each tier gets their own Discord server and early access to content. The agent, guardian, and master levels get exclusive content, bug bounties, exclusive downloads, monthly Python automations, live streams with me every month, plus so much more. And to join, you can simply click the link in the description below, or you can go to our homepage and click the join button there, or you can go to youtube.com/@HankHacksHackers/join, and you'll be able to join Hackaholics Anonymous. Now, without further ado, let us jump into our SOC Fundamentals room. All right, there is no doubt that technology has made our lives more efficient, but with that efficiency comes more responsibility and more things to worry about, really. Modern day fears have come a long way from the exploitation of physical assets, and critical data, also known as your secrets, are no longer stored in a physical file. They're no longer inside of a vault, really. Organizations can carry tons of confidential data in their network and their systems, and any unauthorized disruption, loss, or modification to that data can cause them huge damage, including hundreds of millions of dollars. So threat actors discover and exploit these vulnerabilities in these networks and systems daily, becoming a major concern in cybersecurity, and traditional security practices may not be enough to prevent many of these threats. Dedicating a whole team to managing that security is important. And that is where the SOC comes in. So the SOC, also known as the Security Operations Center, is a dedicated facility operated by a specialized security team. This team aims to continuously monitor an organization's network and resources to identify suspicious activity to prevent damage. This team works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, baby, because hackers do not rest. They don't sleep. They will attack you at all hours of the day and the week and the month and the year. They won't even let you have Christmas off. You know what I'm saying? So this room will delve deep into these concepts of the Security Operations Center. And some of these things are learning the baseline, right? How to build a baseline for Security Operations Center, detection and response in the SOC, the role of people, processes, and technology in the SOC, and of course, the practical exercise that we got for today. So what does the term SOC stand for? And that would be the Security Operations Center. Excellent. So now we can move on to our next task here, which is the purpose and components of the SOC. The main focus of the SOC team is to keep detection and response intact. The SOC team has some resources available in the form of security solutions, for example, Splunk or QRadar or Wazoo or Kibana. These could be the security solutions. Firewalls could also be a security solution. And these things, these solutions, these tools will help the SOC team achieve their goal. These solutions integrate the whole company's network and all the systems to monitor them from one centralized location, which is the SOC center. And continuous monitoring is required to detect and respond to any of these things. So we have the SOC, and then we have detection, and then response that is part of their responsibility. So detection vulnerabilities or detecting vulnerabilities. A vulnerability is a weakness that an attacker can exploit to carry out the things beyond their permission level. A vulnerability might be discovered in any device's software, operating system, and programs, such as a server or a computer. So for instance, the SOC might discover a set of Microsoft Windows computers that must be patched against a specific published vulnerability. Strictly speaking, vulnerabilities are not necessarily the SOC's responsibility. However, unfixed vulnerabilities affect the security level of the entire company. Therefore, it makes the job of the security operations team much more difficult. So at the very least, they need to report it to the appropriate teams, like the security engineering team, for example, so that they can go ahead and patch those vulnerabilities. To detect unauthorized activity is a part of their job, so consider the case where an attacker discovered the username and password of one of the employees and used them to log into the company system. It's crucial to detect this kind of unauthorized activity quickly before it causes any damage. Many clues like the geolocation can help us detect this. And then detecting policy violations. So a security policy is a set of rules and procedures created to help protect the company against security threats and ensure compliance. What is considered a violation would vary from company to company. Examples include downloading pirated media files and sending confidential company files insecurely. I mean, the pirated media files, that should be blocked. Like any website that would be considered a pirate site, that should be blocked. Or think about it like this, all of the sites in the internet should all be blocked. And then there should be a specific list of websites that are allowed, which makes it much easier to manage websites that people can access and cannot access. And instead of trying to block one by one, you block everything, and then you give access to a handful of sites that are actually necessary for the person to do their job. And then we have detection intrusions or detecting intrusions, and these refer to unauthorized access to systems and networks. And one scenario would be that an attacker successfully exploits our web application. Another would be a user visiting a malicious site and getting their computer infected, and all of those things can lead to intrusions, which is a big freaking deal. So that would be the first part, right? You detect, right? The detection part is where you actually notice things that are going on that should not be going on, or they seem fishy. They're like red flags. And then once you've detected them, now you need to respond to them. So the response portion of it is supporting with incident response. So an incident could be happening live. It could be something that already happened, but ideally you would want to detect it as it happens. So once it's actually detected, there are steps that you take to respond to it, and these steps are usually outlined in your playbook or in your training. And this response includes minimizing its impact and performing the root cause analysis of the incident. The SOC team also helps the incident response team carry out these steps. So there are 3 pillars of a security operations center, and all of these pillars, with all of them, the SOC team becomes mature and efficiently detects and responds to different incidents. We have the people, the processes, and the technology. These are the 3 pillars of the Security Operations Center. So they coexist in a SOC environment, a team of professional individuals working on state-of-the-art security tools in the presence of proper processes is what makes a mature SOC environment. And what we're going to be talking about is each of those pillars, and then we're going to go into the details of them, and we're going to examine how they actually are a very important part of the Security Operations Center. So, question here is, the SOC team discovers an unauthorized user is trying to log into an account. Which capability of SOC is this? So they discover something, so they're doing what? They are detecting, right? So detection would be that. And then, so what are the 3 pillars of a SOC? We have the people, we have the processes, and then of course we have the, what was the last one? Oh, technology. I was like, what is it? Okay, great. So there you go, technology. All right, so let's talk about the first one, the people. Regardless of the evolution of automation or automating the majority security tasks, the people in a security operations center will always be important. And that also includes AI, right? Even with the evolution of AI, people will still be important. Believe it or not, people are a necessary part of everything that we do, because as much as you would want to think that AI can replace human beings, it's going to be a while before AI can legitimately replace the need for a human being. And even in that environment, even with the most advanced AI, you always have to think about the fact that it is still a piece of technology, which means that somebody can get into the server room or get into the room that houses all of those powerful computers that allow that AI to operate. And then they can plug something into that computer, and then they can go ahead and poison your AI. They can infect your AI, and now they can take over whatever they need to do. And then the human beings have to come in and try to fix that whole thing. So it's very, very tough to think about an environment or a situation where AI would be the be all and end all and completely remove the need for human beings, which is why I really want to start a training series, which is what we're going to be doing in the next couple of weeks. As soon as Network Plus comes out and it's done, I will be going into the concept of using AI, training AI, integrating with AI, so that the human beings that are watching this feel secure in their future, because it's a very important skill for you to be able to interact with AI and integrate with AI. So anyways, that being said, a security solution can generate numerous red flags in a SOC environment, which can cause huge noise. So imagine you're a part of a fire brigade team and have centralized software where all the city's fire alarms are integrated. Suppose you get many fire notifications at once, all for different places. When you get into those locations, your team finds out most of them were only triggered by excessive smoke from cooking. Eventually, all the efforts will be wasted, and the time and resources will also be wasted. So in a SOC, the security solutions in place without human prevention, you'll need to focus on more relevant issues. So they're always the people who help the security solution to identify truly harmful activities and enable a prompt response. So these things that we talk about right here, this the triggers of excessive smoke, that's called false positives, right? So you will also get stuff like that in a SOC environment where you get false positives, and it's up to the humans to investigate and figure out whether or not they are actually true positives or false positives. And then there are something called a false negative, meaning that there was an attack that got past our security tools and we didn't notice it, and then now we have an incident and we need to respond to that incident, because that false negative should have actually been an alert that it was not an alert and it got past our security team. So it's very important to understand. So our team, our SOC team, has the following roles and responsibilities. At the very top, we have the Chief Information Security Officer, the CISO. Let's zoom in on this a little bit. So we have the CISO, which is the Chief Information Security Officer. He's part, or he or she is part of the C-suite executives, right? They're at the very, very top of the company. Then you have the Security Operations Center Manager. And then you have your analysts that work on those teams. And then inside of that SOC team, you also have the security engineers. And then you also have the detection engineers as well. So you have a pretty robust series of responsibilities. Now, the SOC analyst, level 1, and then you see that we have it, level 1, level 2, level 3, and then we have the security engineer, and then we have the detection engineer. So the level 1 analyst is anything that's detected by the security solution would pass through these people first, and these are the first responders to any detection. The level 1 analysts perform a basic alert triage to determine if a specific detection is harmful or if it's a false positive, and they also report these things through proper channels. The level 2 analyst, while level 1 does the first level of analysis, some detections may require deeper investigation, so the level 2 analyst will help them dive deeper into the investigations and correlate the data from multiple data sources to perform a proper analysis. Level 3 analysts are experienced professionals who proactively look for any threat indicators and support in the incident response activities. The critical severity detection reported by level 1 and level 2 analysts are often security incidents that need detailed responses, including containment, eradication, and recovery. And this is where the level 3 team comes in. The security engineer, so all the analysts work on security solutions. These solutions need deployment and configuration, and that's where the security engineers deploy and configure these security solutions to ensure smooth operation. And that's what we were talking about, like the patching of those Microsoft Windows machines. That could be something that the security engineer does, right? So the security analyst team notices that there's patching that needs to be done, and then they pass it on to the security engineer, and that's the person that does all of the patching and updating. The detection engineer, so there are security rules that are the logic built behind the security solutions to detect harmful activities. And so level 2 and 3 analysts often create those rules, while the SOC team can sometimes also utilize a detection engineer independently for this responsibility that actually creates the rules for detection, and they assign those rules or integrate those rules to the security tools that the company has. And then we have the SOC manager, which manages the processes that the team follows and provides support. The SOC manager also remains in contact with the organization's CISO, their Chief Information Security Officer, to provide him or her with updates on the SOC team's current security posture and efforts. So this is our full SOC team. So the roles in this can increase or decrease depending on the size of criticality, size and criticality of the organization. Obviously, Microsoft will have a much larger team than just 3 people, and vice versa. All right, our question here is alert triage and reporting is the responsibility of which level, right? So we have the alert triage and reporting is the responsibility of which level? And I think that's level 1, right? So SOC analyst, anything detected will pass through these guys. These are the first responders. They perform basic alert triage to determine if a specific thing is hot, and then they report it to somebody else. So we have SOC analyst level 1, I want to say. So let's do it like this. So let's do SOC analyst level, right? 1? Wait, how are we supposed to write this? Your answer is too short. Okay. Oh, you know what? So we'll do SOC analyst, and then I think it's like this. Maybe like that? That's so weird. Ensure. I know your format is really annoying. So we have SOC analyst. That's fine. And then the level part. So we'll do level 1. That's also incorrect. This is so annoying. Let me see what the formatting is for this. I see. So it needs to be. That's so annoying. The way that they have it figured. Okay, I see. Now I understand. So this is the parentheses. Then we'll do level, and then we do 1, and then a close parentheses. And that is the format of the answer. That is obnoxious. But okay, fine. We got the answer. SOC analyst level 1. Now, which role in the SOC team allows you to work dedicatedly on establishing rules for alerting security solutions? And this is the detection engineer that does that specific role. So now that we know what the people do, or what people are a part of the SOC team, we need to talk about the processes that are a part of the SOC team. Now, the SOC team, each individual SOC team will have their own processes. And as we saw with the level 1 SOC analyst, as the first responder, for example, that carry out the alert triage, so on and so forth, we can talk about the various different important processes involved in a security operations center. So the very first one is the triage of the alert. So the term triage really comes with, I want to say, the medical industry typically. So if we actually go ahead and try to find an example of this, or the definition for this is the preliminary assessment of patients or casualties in order to determine the urgency of their need for treatment and the nature of treatment that's required. So this is the context of the medical field, right? There's another one, which is to conduct a preliminary assessment of patients or casualties in order. So there's the noun version, and then there's the verb version. And essentially, they're talking about this first assessment, this very preliminary assessment of the patient or the casualty or the situation in this particular case, because we were talking about cybersecurity. But it's that very first assessment, right? So you can use triage as a noun, or you can use it as a verb. In this particular case, we are triaging the alert. So this is the basis of the SOC team. So we're looking at this as the verb itself. So the first response to any alert is to perform that triage, and now that's the noun. So the triage, the noun, is focused on analyzing this specific alert, and this determines the severity of the alert and helps us prioritize it. The alert triage is all about answering the 5 W's, and these 5 W's work very much hand in hand. So who, what, when, where, how. Or who, what, when, where, why, excuse me. Who, what, when, where, why. And they essentially, you can see that they go in multiple directions here. So the who, right? Or I guess the what is the very first thing. So the what is the very first thing that says what happened, right? So a malicious file was detected on one of the hosts inside of the organization's network. That's what happened. When did it happen? The file was detected at 13:20, which is 1:20 p.m. on June 5th, 2024. Okay, where did it happen? It was detected in the directory of the host George PC. So it was George's PC that happened. Who was involved, right? The file was detected for the user George, as we can see right here in the name of the host. And then why? So after the investigation, it was found that the file was downloaded from a pirated software selling website, freaking George. The investigation with the user revealed that they downloaded the file as they wanted to use a software for free. Again, what the hell, George? Honestly, why would you do something like this? So George really was the one that was responsible for this. So it's George's fault, technically. But it is technically also the fault of the training and the management team for not making it known to George that, hey, man, Don't download stuff from pirate websites. What is wrong with you? It's also something that the IT team should take responsibility for, because a website like this should have been blocked from our DNS service. They should not even be able to access it, right? It should be completely blocked off using the DNS firewall, or just our DNS service itself, just to where what you can and what cannot do, the blacklist and the whitelist, so to speak, of what is completely forbidden, and then what the websites are that you can access. All of those things are technically the responsibility of the IT team, and this could have been prevented. But then there's, of course, the training that needs to be given to George, as well as just, come on, man. Come on. Don't do this kind of stuff. If you are George, if you are the George out there in the world, please don't download things from pirate websites. Not even on your own computer. Just don't download things from pirate websites. I'm telling you, it's not worth it. Like, a lot of times you'll end up downloading something that will ruin you, and then you are essentially screwed after that. Okay, that was triage, right? And then we have the reporting. So the detected harmful alerts need to be escalated to a higher level of analysts for timely response and resolution. These are escalated as tickets and assigned to the relevant people. The report should discuss all of the 5 Ws, along with a thorough analysis, and screenshots should be used as evidence of the activity. And then there's the incident response and forensics. So sometimes the reported detection point to a highly malicious activity that are critical. In these scenarios, high-level teams initiate an incident response. The incident responses process is discussed in detail in our incident response room, and I believe there's even a video that I've already done on this. We'll probably talk about it again as we go through this. I have not done this one. Okay, excellent. So we actually have that in our future, and we will definitely be doing that. A few times, a detailed forensics activity also needs to be performed. These activities aim to determine the incident's root cause by analyzing the artifacts from a system or a network. And incident response is usually in a live environment as things are happening. Forensics is usually done after the thing has happened, and we're trying to figure out what happened. So this very last element where it goes, why did this happen? This is after the investigation. So this is a part of the forensics. We find out that it was downloaded from a pirated website, and we have to give Joe a slap on the wrist. So at the end of the investigation, the SOC team found that John had attempted to steal the system's data. Oh my God. Which W from the 5 Ws does this? We figure out it's why. This is why it happened. Oh, the answer is incorrect. Okay, so I see. We figure out who did it. So it was who. I just looked for a 3-letter word, and Y was the first one that came up. The SOC team detected a large amount of data exfiltration. Which W from the 5 Ws does this actually answer? And this is probably the what, right? What happened? Very good. All right, cool. So let's talk about the technology. Having the right people and processes would never be enough without actual technology, because the technology honestly makes our life much, much easier. The technology portion in the SOC pillars refers to the security solutions, and they efficiently minimize the SOC team's manual effort to detect and respond to threats. The organization's network consists of many devices and applications. As a security team, individually detecting and responding threats in each device would require significant effort and time and energy and resources. It's just too much, especially if you have thousands of freaking endpoints, or also known as, computers and devices, basically. Security solutions centralize all of this information and applications that are present in the network, and automate the detection and response capabilities. So we have the SIM, which is the Security Information and Event Management, and it's a very popular tool. This collects logs from various devices referred to as log sources, and detection rules are often configured in the SIM solution, which contains logic to identify suspicious activity. The SIM solution provides us with the detections after correlating them with multiple log sources, and alerts us in case there is a match of any type of the rules. So it actually combines all of the events from the various log sources, and it correlates them, meaning it basically connects all of those events together to try to find some kind of a pattern that would be worthy of our attention, right? And modern SIM solutions surpass this rule based on detection analysis and provide us with a user behavior analytics and threat intelligence capability, meaning they actually look at the user's behaviors as well as the various threat intelligence databases or threat intelligence sources, threat intelligence feeds, and they'll look at all of that data combined with all of the data from the different logs, and then they'll give you some really good, well-informed alerts. Machine learning algorithms support this to enhance the detection capabilities, and that's where AI really comes in. And then we have the SIM solution only provides the detection capability in its environment. You would need to have some kind of a SOAR, which is security orchestration and automation response, that goes hand in hand with the SIM, or you would need to use some kind of an AI tool to be able to automate the response to that, because the SIM really only does the detection part of this whole thing. And then we have the EDR, which is the endpoint detection and response. And this provides with the SOC team with a detailed real-time historical visibility of the device's activities. So think about each endpoint as a device. It could be somebody's cell phone, it could be their computer, it could be a server, it could be a router or a switch. And it operates on the endpoint level and can carry out automated responses. This has extensive detection capabilities for endpoints, allowing you to investigate them in detail and respond with a few clicks. Then we have the firewall, which is probably like the very first ever security tool that was invented for computers. This functions purely for network security and acts as a barrier between your internal and external network, like the internet, for example. It monitors incoming and outgoing traffic and filters any unauthorized traffic. The firewall also has some detection rules deployed, which help us identify and block suspicious traffic before it reaches the internal network. There are stateless firewalls that basically operate on rules. There are stateful firewalls that look at the context of the activity that's going on. And then we also have next generation firewalls that have an intrusion prevention mechanism that actually stops things from happening. It'll drop the connection of something. It'll actually take some kind of an action on your behalf to prevent the damage from escalating or going any further. So there are different types of firewalls. Not all firewalls are created equal, and not all firewalls do the same things. So as the kind of like the rule of thumb, the most powerful firewall so far is the next generation firewall. So if you're a company, or if you yourself can actually find a good one, and obviously you can afford it, because usually they're not free. There could be an open source version. You would have to do the research for that. And I actually challenge you to go ahead and do some research to find an open source next generation firewall to actually make this happen. And then based on that, drop a comment. So there are other security solutions that play unique roles in this, which is the AntiVirus, the endpoint protection platform, and then the intrusion detection system, intrusion prevention system, the XDR, which is actually very interesting, I've never heard of, and then we have the security orchestration, automation, and response. Let's see what the XDR is. I'm very, very curious to see what this is. And it is the Modern Endpoint Buyer CrowdStrike XDR. And this stands for the Extended Detection and Response, which is a security platform that helps organizations detect and respond to cyber threats. XDR uses AI and automation to integrate data from multiple security sources into a single console, and it allows security teams to more securely or quickly identify and respond to threats. Okay, very cool. So this is an extended detection and response tool. So which security solution monitors the incoming and outgoing traffic of the network? So incoming and outgoing traffic is done through the firewall. And then we have do SIM solutions primarily focus on detecting and alerting about security incidents? Yes, they do. They actually do. And then what do we have? All right, the practical exercise. So let's go into it. Let's do that exercise. As a part of our exercise, we do have a little scenario here. And so we're the level 1 analyst of the organization. We received an alert that a port scanning activity has been observed on one of the hosts in the network. And we have access to the SIM solution where you can see all the associated logs. You are tasked to view the logs individually and answer the questions to our questions below. So the vulnerability assessment team notified the SOC team that they were running a port scan activity inside the network from the host 10008. So this is actually something that's happening internally. And then we also need to be aware of everything else that is going on inside the network. So what activity triggered the alert? So we only have one activity that has not been resolved. All of these have been closed. And so if we click on acknowledge, now we actually have the activity for us. Now it says port scanning, and it already mentioned that it was a port scan that triggered the alert. So we could literally just type in port scan, and that will be the answer. Now it says, what was the time of the activity? Excuse me. So we will now investigate this in the SIM. And so we have these various tools. So the source host name right here is Nessus, and Nessus is a vulnerability scanner. And then we have the source IP address, the destination IP address. We have the time of this thing. So June 12th, 1724. And the whole thing is June 12th, 1724. So it all happened essentially at the same time. It was just happening against various ports inside of the company, and it was happening back and forth from the IP addresses that we have here. So the 10.0.0.8 IP address that we have here is from the team, from the security team. So that is the source IP address that's running it. And then we have a destination IP address, which I'm assuming is the IP address of the company that's actually being scanned. So the time itself is this June 12th, 2024, 1724. So we could literally just copy paste that over here, and that'll be the answer. Now it says, what is the destination host IP address? And then we can see that right here. It's the 10.0.0.3 would be our destination host IP address. So we'll do that. And it says the source host name, and we have that over here as well. So that is Nessus for our response. So really, you see how like it makes it super easy, right, to actually be able to do these things. So why? So what was the reason for the activity? Was it intended or malicious? Now, based on the information that we have right here, we see that there was a vulnerability team that notified us that they were running a port scan. So I don't think this is malicious. I think this was actually an intended exercise that was done. Very good. So we see that right there. So additional investigation. Has any response been sent back to the port scanner? So has any response been sent back to the port scanner? Now, what we see over here is that, you know, most of these things are coming from Nessus, including the IP address, the source IP address for our security team. But then we actually have one right here that went from Joe's PC. So Joe PC, being the original destination, actually responded to Nessus. So we do have a response over there. And then we have, do we have another one? I think that's the only one. So let me just double check and make sure. Yeah, so there's only one. There's only one that went from Joe's PC to Nessus. So we can say yeah to that because there was an actual response. Now it says, what is the flag found after closing the alert? So, I mean, we have this right here. We completed our investigation. We can go up here and complete the investigation. There's also a search option. I guess I could have searched the alerts, but it's not really that big of a deal. Let's see if we break this down and go to all time. Let's see how many we get. So we went from, we still have 4,300 hits and the responses were exactly the same. So that didn't really change much. So that's fine, whatever. We can complete our investigation. And now it says, after the investigation, what do you think the activity was? Was it a true positive or was it a false positive? And it was actually a false positive. So very good. As mentioned in the task, the vulnerability assessment team notified us that they were doing the activity. So that's all good. And so now we can go ahead and close the alert. And here's our flag that we were able to complete our exercise. So fairly straightforward. This is one of the greatest things that is a power of the SIM solution, is that it makes something as complex as what we just did right now super simple, and you get access to some logs and everything is inside a dashboard, and it correlates the events for you as you saw, and it gets you the date and the time, like all of those things. It gets you the agent, right? What the source host name basically, which is that Nessus tool that was being used to do the vulnerability scan. All of these things are provided to you by the SIM itself, which is absolutely amazing. If you have ever looked at a log itself, and if you've looked at a log file before, you can see that it's not user-friendly. It's just basically a bunch of lines of text, like thousands and thousands of lines of text, and it gets very overwhelming very quickly. And if you don't know how to sift and sort through those using some kind of a script language or some, a command line tool like grep or awk or something like that, if you don't know how to use that, it becomes really, really overwhelming and very almost impossible, if not impossible, at the very least improbable, to be able to do something like that. So yeah, that's the power of a SIM solution, and they use SIMs inside of a security operations center, a SIM or a SIM or an IDS or something like that. So in case you are interested in doing this, this is actually a free room that's inside of TryHackMe. So anybody who has a free membership, just a basic username and password, can go ahead and access this room. You can even launch this exercise and kind of play around with it a little bit. We learned more about the SOC team inside of this room. We learned about the people, the processes, and the technology that mature any kind of a SOC environment. And of course, we got a chance to do this little investigation, which was very, very fun to do. So if you have not played around with it, I highly encourage that you do it, because it's a very, very useful skill to practice, and you want to practice. That's one of the big things that has to do with just security operations in general, and being a good cybersecurity professional is the practice that it takes. It's really important to get lectures, and it's really important to get the knowledge in a way that you're getting inside this video, but you gotta practice. It's a very, very powerful concept. If you don't practice, you don't learn, and you don't get any better, you don't have any experience, and they won't want to hire you, right? So that's the piece right there. So I hope you actually found this video useful and you got some value out of it. If you did indeed find this video useful, I do encourage you to like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell so that you get notified the next time that video comes out on this channel, especially with the CySec101 series that we're about to be wrapping up in the next, hopefully, I don't know how many days. And then we also have the Network Plus that's coming out in the next week, because I'm done recording all of the lecture notes, and I'm going to be doing all of the practical notes or the practical recordings, and then it's going to go into edit and it's going to be out just like that. And then we have the AI for cybersecurity, which is really, really big deal. And we're going to talk about how to integrate AI into these various cybersecurity tools to make you even more capable as a security professional. And then of course, there's all of these videos that already exist on the channel, which is a lot of freaking videos. So if you haven't checked it out already, there's a lot of stuff on this channel, and we are constantly going and adding more. Currently, as it stands, as I record this, there's 275 videos that are live on the channel. By the time that you watch this, we'll probably be in the 300s. So there's a lot of video that's constantly coming out. And I very much would love to actually get your feedback from these things. So if you have any questions or if you have any comments, please drop your questions and comments in the section below. And then obviously, if it's a good question, I will go ahead and create a video in response to your question. This entire playlist, the CySec101 playlist, was in response to a comment that we got by a gentleman named Darnell Knight. So thank you, Darnell. And yeah, I'm attentive. I pay attention to what's going on inside the comment section. So drop a comment if you have any questions, if you just want to say hi, if you just want to say thanks, all that good stuff. I very much welcome all of the comments, and I love hearing from the community. So it means the world to me to actually hear from you all. So again, like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, drop a comment, all that good stuff. Let me know how you're doing, and you know, show some love and show some appreciation if you want. No pressure or anything like that. If you'd like to support this channel, consider joining Hackaholics Anonymous, the premier community for security professionals and hackers. We have 4 tiers: the supporter, agent, guardian, and master, and each tier gets their own Discord server and early access to content. The agent, guardian, and master levels get exclusive content, exclusive downloads, monthly Python automations, live streams with me every month, plus so much more. And to join, you can simply click the link in the description below. You can go to our homepage and click the join button there, or you can go to youtube.com/@HankHacksHackers/join, and you'll be able to join Hackaholics Anonymous. I really hope I see you in our Discord chats. If not, I hope I see you in the comment section, and that's it. It's your boy Hank Hackerson at Hank Hacks Hackers, your favorite network and system attacker. Love, peace, and chicken grease. If no one else loves you, I love you, and I will see you in the next video later. In episode 41 of the CySec101 training series, we are going to go through the digital forensics fundamentals. And as a part of this, we are going to go through the overall overview of the methodology for digital forensics, the evidence acquisition portion, Windows forensics element of it, because it's a very, very big deal to actually know Windows forensics, and of course, some practical examples of how to actually run a digital forensics campaign, or an investigation, I should say. This is all part of the defensive security module that is part of the Cybersecurity 101 pathway of TryHackMe, and we have made some very, very good progress with the defensive security module. We have a couple of other videos after this one, and after this we're going to go into offensive security tooling, and then I think there's like 2 or 3 modules that are left, and we will be officially wrapped with Cybersecurity 101, which is something that I'm actually very excited about. So hopefully you've been following along with us and you have been getting a lot of good value out of this entire series. So if you'd like to support this channel, consider joining Hackaholics Anonymous, the premier community for security professionals and hackers. We have 4 tiers: the supporter, agent, guardian, and master. Each tier gets their own Discord server and early access to content. The agent, guardian, and master levels get exclusive content, bug bounties, exclusive downloads, monthly Python automations, live streams with me, and so much more. To join, you can simply click the link in the description below, or you can go to our homepage and click the join button there, or you can go to youtube.com/@HankHacksHackers/join, and you'll be able to join Hackaholics Anonymous. That being said, let us jump into the Digital Forensics Fundamentals room. All right, if you don't already know, forensics is the application of methods and procedures to investigate and solve crimes in general. So this could be just a regular crime scene, somebody gets shot, or there's a robbery or something like that. You've probably seen it in the CSI shows, the crime scene investigation unit, whatever, and a bunch of different movies where they just wait for the forensics person to come and look at the crime scene and look at the blood splatter. There's this one show called Dexter, is one of my favorite shows, and Dexter, the character, is like a crime scene specialist for forensics, and he specializes in the splatter of blood and how that affected or how the crime was carried out based on the patterns of the blood or whatever. So that's forensics. There's a branch of forensics that investigates cyber crimes specifically, and this is known as digital forensics. And cybercrime is any criminal activity that's conducted on or using a digital device, which is a very big world. It's a large category. And there are different tools and techniques that are used to investigate digital devices thoroughly after any crime to find and analyze evidence for necessary legal action. So this is the concept of digital forensics. And there are actually several, probably about a dozen digital forensics incident response videos on this channel already, but we do a little bit of a deep dive into the advanced tools and the different categories. So this is literally the introduction to digital forensics, just in case you've never even heard of this before, right? So this is the crime scene. I love crime scenes for whatever reason. I like the tape, the crime tape that's like, police only or no passing beyond this point. There's something about it. I don't know what it is, but there's something about it that just seems very, very cool to me. It's very nerdy. I understand. Don't judge me. So what do we got? Digital devices have solved many of our problems. Communication all around the globe is just a matter of a text or a call nowadays. Due to the vast usage of digital devices, besides making life easier, an increase in digital crime or cyber crimes has also been observed. A variety of crimes are committed using digital devices, and as the world gets progressively more advanced, these things also just become more advanced. So there was a time where, there were phone cards that you had to use, and I'm probably dating myself, but there were phone cards that you had to use to call somebody in a different country. And then when Facebook came around and you could make a Facebook call to somebody, and then Skype came around, and all these different uh, digital tools, these digital communication mediums came around. And then there was a time where people are like, I would never submit my credit card information into the computer to buy something. Are you crazy? And now everybody's doing it on Amazon and through their phone. And it's progressed very quickly, and it's going to continue to progress. And now we're in the era of cryptocurrency and crypto wallets. And there's comments that come through our channel of people trying to initiate some kind of a crypto scam by sending their secret phrases. And then, not to mention all of the AI tools that are coming around to commit social engineering scams, which also falls under cybercrime. But I mean, there's a wide range of different types of crimes that fall under the cybercrime category. And as somebody who would be going into cybersecurity and going into potentially incident response and ultimately digital forensics, you need to be on top of all of these strategies and tactics that hackers will use to either attack you or your organization or your family or really anybody, right? So it's our job to stay ahead of these things. And if we wanted to consider an example in this particular case, we could say, law enforcement agencies raid a bank robber's place with proper search warrants, obviously. Some digital devices, including a laptop, mobile phone, hard drive, and a USB, were found in the robber's home. The law enforcement agency handed over the case to the digital forensics team. The team collected evidence securely and conducted a thorough investigation inside the digital forensics lab equipped with forensic tools. The following evidence was found. Now, before I move on, this would actually be done. So if the computer's on already, right? So if the laptop is already on, or if there's a desktop or something, if that computer is already on, you need to get an image of that computer, basically a copy of everything that's on that computer, before you turn it off and you transfer it to your lab with your forensics equipment and everything. Because when you turn something off, it wipes all of the data that may be stored in the volatile memory, also known as the random access memory, which is the RAM. And the RAM stores data that is considered volatile because anytime that you restart it, that is wiped. So that's very, very critical data, because a lot of times a lot of really important stuff could actually be stored in the RAM. And then when you turn it off or restart it or anything like that happens, you lose all of that data. So it's very important to keep that portion in mind. that's a little bit of an advanced tip for you. I know we're in CySec101 and the intro to this stuff, but it's just something that you really want to keep in mind. So all right, from this investigation right here, the following evidence was found. They got a digital map of the bank that was found on a suspect's laptop, which they kept for planning the robbery. A document with the bank's entrance and escape routes was found on the suspect's hard drive. I said escape. It's actually escape. My accent kicks in sometimes, if you haven't already noticed. English is technically my second language, whatever. Um, a document on the hard drive that listed all the bank's physical security controls. The suspect devised plans to bypass the security measures. Some media files, including photos and videos of the suspect's previous robberies, were inside the suspect's laptop. That's just really bad criminal activities. Like, why? Why would you do that? Like, honestly, you're just asking for it at that point. After conducting a thorough investigation of the suspect's mobile phone, some illegal chat groups and call records related to the bank robbery were also found. Bad robber. So this is the bank map, right? That they have the blueprint of the bank. We have the vault, obviously. We have the record room, guard room, another vault right here. So we want to make sure that we take out the guard room for. I'm not gonna break down how to commit a crime. I would not know how to commit a crime, honestly. Maybe cyber crime I can teach you, but definitely not bank robberies. That requires a team. I feel like you can't do that alone by yourself. Um, Anyways, I digress. Moving on. All this evidence helped law enforcement in the legal proceedings of the case. This scenario discusses a case from the start till the end. Some procedures are followed by the digital forensics team while collecting the evidence, storing it, analyzing it, and reporting it. We will focus in this video on covering the understanding of these procedures. And so these are our objectives: the phases of digital forensics, types of digital forensics, procedures of evidence acquisition, Windows forensics, and of course, solving a forensics case. The first question is, which team was handed the case by law enforcement? And of course, that is the digital forensics team. All right, let's move on to the digital forensics methodology. The digital forensics team has various cases requiring different tools and techniques. However, the National Institute of Standards of Technology, which is NIST, defines a general process for every case. And NIST usually has frameworks for every part of cybersecurity operations. So it could be digital forensics, incident response. It could be their cybersecurity framework for just having a good cybersecurity program. They have a lot of stuff that's available and useful, and you should definitely check their website out and check out whatever you can just relative to what you're studying. NIST works on defining frameworks for different areas of tech, including cybersecurity, where they introduce the process of digital forensics in 4 phases. There's the collection, examination, analysis, and reporting. And the first phase of digital forensics is data collection. Identifying all the devices from which the data can be collected is essential. Usually an investigator can find personal computers, laptops, digital cameras, USBs, etc. on the crime scene. It's also necessary to ensure the original data is not tampered with while collecting the evidence and to maintain a proper document containing the collected items' details. This also goes into chain of custody. We'll also be discussing the evidence acquisition procedures in the upcoming portions of this video. The collected data may overwhelm investigators due to its size. This data usually needs to be filtered, and the data of interest needs to be extracted. For example, as an investigator, you collected all the media files from a digital camera on the crime scene. You may only require some of the media as you're concerned with the media recorded on a specific date and time. So in the examination phase, you would filter the media files of the required time and move them to the next phase. Similarly, you may only need the data of a specific user from a system containing numerous user accounts. The examination phase helps you filter this particular data for analysis. And that's where the critical phase really is. I feel like all of them are critical, but analysis is really where the investigation kind of takes root. The investigators now have to analyze the data by correlating it with multiple pieces of evidence to draw conclusions. The analysis depends upon the case scenario and available data. The analysis aims to extract the activities relevant to the case chronologically. And in the last phase of this, a detailed report is prepared, and it contains the investigation's methodology and detailed findings from the collected evidence. It may also contain recommendations, and it's presented to law enforcement and executive management. It is important to include executive summaries as a part of the report, considering the level of understanding of all of the receiving parties. So basically, not to sound rude about it, but you got to dumb it down for the executives because this is not their playhouse, right? So this is they don't know the technical jargon and all those things. So you got to keep it as simple as possible so that they can understand what happened and what needs to be done after the fact. As a part of the collection phase, we saw that various pieces of evidence can be found, and analyzing these multiple categories of evidence requires various tools. There are different types of digital forensics, all within their own collection analysis methodologies, and these are some of them. So we have disk forensics, network forensics, database, memory, mobile, malware, email, and cloud. Let's see if I can click on that. Okay, there we go. This kind of, it's a little bit bigger, but basically the same thing. So there's different types, different levels of forensics, and all of this falls under computer forensics, and all of these things are important. Some may be more relevant than others depending on the type of attack that took place and the type of data that was affected, the systems and services that were affected. So computer forensics is the most common type, which concerns investigating computers and the devices that are most commonly used in crimes. And a cell phone technically counts as a computer, but it has its own category, which is mobile, and this involves investigating mobile devices and extracting device evidence such as call records, text messages, GPS locations, and more. Then there is network, which covers investigation beyond individual devices, and it includes the whole network. The majority of the evidence found in networks is the network traffic logs, and a lot of database forensics is considered critical data that is inside of dedicated databases. And this investigates any intrusion into these databases that results in data modification or exfiltration, which is essentially robbery when you like steal data. Cloud forensics is the type of forensics that involves investigating data stored on cloud infrastructure. This type of forensics sometimes gets tricky for the investigators as there is little evidence on cloud infrastructures. Email is the most common communication method between professionals, and it's become an important part of digital forensics. And they are used to investigate and determine whether they are part of phishing, which is social engineering, or fraudulent campaigns, which is not, I guess, fraudulent or email fraud is not necessarily phishing. It's when somebody uses somebody else's email to commit a crime. That could potentially be considered email fraud. And then there's, of course, somebody who's implicit. They're actually a part of the crime and they're an insider, so like an insider threat to the company, and they are using email to communicate with the external attack forces. All of these things would fall under email technically. So, which phase of digital forensics is concerned with correlating the collected data to draw any conclusions from it? And this would be the analysis phase. And then which phase of digital forensics is concerned with extracting the data of interest from the collected evidence? And that would be our, what is it? What is the technical name? Collection. That would be the collection phase. Oh, I guess it's not collection. So if it's not collection, I mean, I guess examination, right? I don't know. Maybe that's what it is. Could be examination. All right, there we go. All right, so let's talk about evidence acquisition. Acquiring evidence is obviously a very important topic. It's a very important concept, and you have to be able to collect the evidence without tampering with the original data, and then proving the original integrity of the data so that as it gets passed along the chain of custody, there's some way to keep track of what the original data was and whether or not it's actually been tampered. The acquisition methods for digital devices depend on the type of digital device. There are general practices, and these are some of them. So authorization is a big one. The forensics team should obtain authorization from the relevant authority before collecting any data. Evidence collected without prior approval may be deemed inadmissible in court, which means they can't use it in their proceedings, which means even if the person is guilty and the evidence is really good, if there was no authorization originally that was acquired, then you can't use it. And one of the examples of this is if you have an audio recording of somebody, and in the audio recording, the person is saying, yeah, I did it, and this is my plan, and like they confess to everything, but there was no, they were not notified. The person that's on the recording was not notified that they were being recorded, and there was no warrant that was issued for that recording to take place. So if there was no warrant that was issued from the actual judge or from the court, and the original person that was recording it wasn't aware that they were being recorded, none of that is admissible in court. And even if they admitted it to it, you can't use that against them. So this is an important concept here. There's private and sensitive data, obviously. So proper authorization before collecting the data is essential for investigating according to the limits of the law. Hence the search warrant concept. Do you have a warrant? If you don't, get the hell out of here. None of this stuff is admissible. You can't talk to me. You can't come in. You can't look at my car. None of this stuff. You need to have a warrant for that. Chain of custody is a very important element of this. So imagine that there is a team of investigators that are collecting the evidence, and some of the evidence goes missing after a few days, or there's some kind of change in the evidence. And no individual can be held accountable in this scenario because there is no proper process for documenting the evidence. This problem can be solved by maintaining the chain of custody document, and it's a formal document containing all the details of the evidence. And in cybersecurity, you don't see this here, but the hash value is a very, very important element of the chain of custody because that proves whether or not the evidence was ever altered as it was being passed down the chain of custody. So there is the basic info, the description of the evidence, the name of the individual who collected it, date and time, storage location of each piece of evidence, access times of the individual on record who accessed the evidence. And it doesn't say it over here, but there is a very, very important document, or there's an important value, which is technically, this downloaded the file. I did not want to download the file. I did not want to download that file. I just wanted to open the file. That's very annoying. Let's see if we can. Yeah, that's very annoying. But it's basically a form, really, that collects the information that you see right here. It's just that we need the hash value as well. So let's see if I can actually do this. We'll do a cybercrime chain of custody form. Let's see if we can find an example of this so you can kind of see what's going on over here. And if I open this thing up, maybe we can see it. It doesn't show it there. Let's see if we can look at this one. Maybe this has it. Let's open this up in a new tab and check it out. So what do we got? There's no hash values. You see, this is the thing that's very, very important to keep in mind. The hash value is very important. The hash value determines whether or not the file or the image of the disk or anything has been altered. And this is a key concept in cybercrime because that's literally the only way that we can determine whether or not the evidence was tampered with. If somebody broke into the evidence locker and actually stole it. Here we go, right here, boom. This thing, it's a little bit blurry, so hopefully you can kind of see what's going on. But there is the MD5 sum and the SHA-1 sum, and these are the hash values that belong to digital items. And this is the only way that we can determine whether or not something has actually been tampered with. And if at any point that the evidence is being passed from a submitter to a receiver, if at any point, because they have to keep checking the hash values, right? If at any point these sums right here have been altered, which can be done with even the smallest edit to anything inside of that disk, if that has happened, that means that evidence was tampered with. And if these people that are sending and receiving, if these people aren't aware of it, or if they don't actually document that this is what happened and this is why there is a change in the hash value, then that evidence is no longer admissible in court because at some point somebody tampered with it. And that's a very, very important concept to understand with digital forensics and incident response. So I guess more digital forensics because we're really inside the forensics part of it. Now, a write blocker is the part of the digital forensics toolbox that, let's say that you're collecting evidence from a hard drive and you want to attach your device to a forensic workstation, or that device specifically to a forensic workstation. While the collection occurs, some background tasks in the forensic workstation may alter the timestamps of the files of the hard drive, and this can cause hindrances during analysis, ultimately producing incorrect results. And if the data was collected from the hard drive using a write blocker, then this hard drive would remain in its original state, as the write blocker can block any evidence alteration actions. So it blocks anything from being written onto the hard drive. That's basically what it does. A write blocker blocks writing on the disk or the hard drive or whatever it is, so that none of it gets tampered with or none of it is altered, and you have the original state of the data that you had from getting it from the crime scene or from the criminal's house or whatever it is. So the write blocker is a very, very important piece of this, and there's a lot of other elements that would be inside of your digital forensics toolkit, so to speak, but these are some really, really critical ones. It's the chain of custody forms that you would use to establish your hash values and obviously who got it, what time they got it, all that. And then the write blocker to make sure that the actual hard drive or whatever the evidence is that you're analyzing or you're copying is not being altered while it's being copied. So which tool is used to ensure that data integrity during collection is done? And that would be our write blocker. And what is the name of the document that has all the details of the collected digital evidence? And that, of course, is our chain of custody form. And let me spell that right. And all right, cool. That's it. So let's talk about Windows forensics now. It has been estimated that about 80% of all of the personal computers in the world are based on Microsoft Windows. This is one of the most common, or we could even call it like the dominant operating system when it comes down to personal computers. Now, as far as business computers or operating systems for cars, or video game consoles or anything like that, that could be the operating system of Linux because it's very lightweight, it's open source, it's used in a lot of enterprise environments and in a lot of enterprise machines. But when it comes down to a personal system, right? So the data server at a bank is most likely Linux based, but the computers that the bank tellers use is probably Windows based. They're not going to give them Linux computers. And the reason there's many reasons for this, but the patching and updating of Windows systems is more convenient, I would say, than Linux systems. If you have 1,000 Windows machines versus 1,000 Linux machines, patching and updating could be very, very different for either of those. The management of users inside of the Windows environment, I think, is easier. The management of access policies and group policies and permissions, all of those things, I think, are much more convenient to be done inside of the Windows environment. So there's a lot of different reasons why the Windows operating system ends up being one of the more common operating systems in the world when it comes down to personal computing. And that's neither here nor there, really. It's just the fact that we need to know that this is one of the most common. And so, that being said, you need to know how to interact with it. Obviously, you're most likely watching this on a Windows machine. I'm recording on a Mac machine, which is a Unix/Linux type of a operating system that's running. So Windows by itself is, again, just very, very dominant, and it's important to understand it, especially in the context of digital forensics. So as a part of the data collection phase, forensics images of the Windows operating system are taken. These are bit by bit copies. So a bit is the smallest unit of measurement when it comes down to taking data. So when you take, for example, 8 bits is 1 byte, and then you have megabytes and terabytes, but the bit is the smallest amount of data. So you would take a bit by bit copy of the whole operating system, and two different categories of this are taken from a Windows operating system. You have the disk image, which contains all the data that's present on the storage device of the system, and this is non-volatile, meaning that the disk data would survive even after a restart of the operating system. For example, the media files, documents, internet browsing history, and more. And then there's the volatile stuff, as we talked about it at the beginning of this video. The memory image contains data that's inside the system's RAM, the random access memory. And this memory is volatile, meaning the data will get lost after the system is powered off or restarted. So to capture open files, for example, running processes, current network connections, the memory image should be prioritized and taken first from the suspect's operating system. Otherwise, any restart or shutdown of the system would result in all the volatile data getting deleted. While carrying out digital forensics on a Windows operating system, disk and memory images are very important to collect, but the more important one, the priority, is the memory image, especially if you're at the crime scene and the computer is still on. Before you turn off the computer to transfer it to your forensics lab, you need to get that memory image, that copy of what's going on inside of the random access memory. Otherwise, as soon as you turn that thing off, it's going to be gone. So this is a very, very key element to understand. You will most likely be faced with scenarios or questions where they say, hey, what's the priority between these, right? What's the between the disk image and the memory image, which is the highest in the priority list? And 100% of the time, you would say the memory image. It's kind of counterintuitive, or it feels like it might be counterintuitive, because you think about the disk and you're like, okay, well, the disk is really important, right? It has all the data that's saved and all the storage and all that stuff. It is very important. We're not going to say that it's not important, but it's not as volatile, meaning if you restart the system, all this stuff is still going to be there, right? This stuff gets wiped if you restart the system. So that's very important to understand. So the tools that are used for this, probably the most popular one is the Forensic Toolkit Imager. So Forensic Toolkit Imager is a widely used tool for taking disk images of Windows operating systems. It has a user-friendly GUI graphical interface for creating the image in various formats, and it can also analyze the contents of the disk image. It can be used for both acquisition and analysis purposes. Autopsy is another really big one. We have a video about Autopsy on this channel, and it's an open source digital forensics platform. An investigator can import an acquired disk image into this tool, and the tool will conduct an extensive analysis. It offers various features like during image analysis, including keyword search, deleted file recovery, file metadata, extension mismatch detection, and many more. Dump it, excuse me. Dump it, very, very interesting. It sounds like something that could be like a rap song or something. Offers the utility of taking a memory image from a Windows operating system. This tool creates memory images using a command line interface and a few commands. The memory image can also be taken in different formats. Volatility is a powerful open source tool for analyzing memory images. It offers extensive or extremely useful plugins. Each artifact can be analyzed using a specific plugin, and it supports various operating systems, including Windows, Linux, Mac OS, and Android. And there's also a video on volatility on this channel. And there are other tools. I think there's Velociraptor, there is Redline. There are several other videos that have to do with digital forensics on this channel, and we talk about different tools and things like that. So I know that there's one for Velociraptor, I know that there's one for Redline, I know that there's one for volatility, and I know that there's one for Autopsy as well. I don't think I have one for the Forensic Toolkit Imager. But anyways, there's an entire playlist called DFIR, the Digital Forensic Incident Response Playlist. So you can go find those videos there if you are interested. So let's see. Which type of forensic image is taken to collect the volatile data from operating system? And that would be the memory image. And there we go. Memory refers to random access memory. It does not refer to the storage on the hard drive. So just keep that in mind. Anytime you hear memory, they're referring to volatile memory or the RAM. They're not referring to the storage data or the data that's stored on the hard drive of the computer. So let us go into our practical example of digital forensics here. So here's the story. Our cat Gato has been kidnapped. Not Gato, Gato has been kidnapped. The kidnapper has sent us a document with a request in MS Word document format. We've converted the document to PDF format and extracted the image from the MS Word file for your convenience. So this is the stuff that's available inside of the task files for this specific video. Now, this is a subscriber-only video for TryHackMe. So unfortunately, these task files specifically cannot be accessed unless you have the paid subscription to TryHackMe. However, for the intensive purposes of what we're learning, if you just follow along with what I'm doing and then just use a different PDF file or a different Word document and then use it with the tool that we're about to use, then you can still essentially run the same activities that I'm running and still get similar data to what I'm going to get. Obviously, you won't get the exact data that I'm going to get because our files are going to be different, but the process is going to be the same no matter what the file is. That's the first note. The second note is if you actually want to get a paid subscription to TryHackMe, there's a link in the description below. That's a discount link that'll actually give you $5 off of the monthly, and the monthly is like 12 bucks. So you would get $5 off and it would become $7, which is it's very, very freaking useful. I mean, like I literally know people that spend more money on coffee every day or every couple of days than it costs to actually get a membership to TryHackMe. So it's totally worth it. There's a lot of universities that actually use TryHackMe as their platform for teaching people things, because you can literally run a bunch of hacking type exercises or exercises like what we're doing in a controlled environment without it being a felony, and you will still get practice. So very, very powerful resource, and I highly encourage you to use it. Now, if you don't, it's all good. You can still use the software that I'm going to be using and just run the exercises against essentially any other kind of or any other Microsoft Word or PDF file, and then you'll still be able to just run the exercise and get the data. For this video, we're going to run the exercise, and if you're watching this for TryHackMe, then you already have access to the attack box, so all of that is available to you anyways. All right, that being said, our attack box, I already started it. The task files are inside of this location for me. And so this is a Linux attack box, as we can see from right here. And we're going to first go into it, and then essentially I'm just going to run the command line tools that we would run to be able to get the information that we need. So it's really not that complicated. Like, we're not going to be doing anything intensive as far as digital forensics is concerned. We're just going to be running some basic information. So the attack box should be up. So let me go ahead and open my split view here. And yeah, I think it is up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open this in a full screen format just to make it a little bit easier for you to see. And then from here, I'm going to open this up in my secondary monitor, and then I'm going to drag it off, and then from there I'll just kind of follow the instructions, but I'll run everything inside of the terminal so that you can see what's actually going on. So that way it'll be a little bit easier for you, and then it'll be pretty easy for me to also display the information for you. So let us zoom in here, and let's see. The very first thing that we were supposed to do actually was to open the terminal and then go to the location of the files. And so let me just kind of zoom and then make sure that this is centered. All right, perfect. So the location of the file is the root rooms intro digital forensics. This is where it is. And there we go. So we have our letter image JPEG file, we have the ransom letter document, we have ransom letter PDF, and then ransom letter 2 in a zip file. So the very first thing that it says over here is that when you create a file, which is a TXT file, some metadata gets saved by the operating systems, like the file's creation date and last modification date. Much information gets kept within the file's metadata when you use a more advanced editor like MS Word. Now, there are various ways to read the file metadata. You might open them within their official viewer editor or use a suitable forensic tool. So if you export the file to PDF, it would actually maintain or it would keep most of that data of the original document, depending on the type of the PDF software that you use to write it. So in this particular case, we are going to use PDF info, which is a command line tool, and it displays a variety of metadata used to create that file or on that PDF file, like the title, the subject, author, etc. And so we already have this installed on our attack box. If you're using this on your own computer, you may have to install PDF info because I don't think it comes pre-installed. If you're actually running Kali Linux, then it already does come pre-installed, so it should be pretty easy. You can use this specific command if you want to install it. So if you're using Linux in any way, it would be sudo to give you root or admin privileges, and then you would use the apt packet manager. You would say install, and then you would say pop utils, and then that actually installs the PDF info utility on there for you. If you have another type of Linux distribution, so I think for Ubuntu and for Kali, it's APT. I think for Fedora and what is it, Red Hat, I think it's Yum. I haven't memorized those things, but there are different types of package managers depending on the distribution of Linux that you're running. So just look up what your package manager is for your distribution of Linux, assuming that you are running Linux. And then from there, you would just use one of those package managers to install the popular utilities. So now that I know that I actually have mine, I'm going to look at the PDF info for my PDF here, which is the ransomletter.pdf. And so there we go. The title is Pay Now. The subject is we have Gato, and it says Gato right here. It doesn't say Gato. So the instruction, the story itself was misspelling Gato, I want to say. The author is Anne Gree Shepard, Microsoft Word 2016. Creation date, modification date are exactly the same. There is a tag on it. User properties no, suspects no, form none, pages 1, encrypted no, page size, and that's pretty much it, the file size and the PDF version. And so let's just real quick look at the questions. I feel like we probably do need to use PDF info for whatever question that we have. So yeah, so using PDF info, find out the author of the attached PDF, and it was, who was her name? It says Anne Gree Shepard. So let's do that first. Okay, great. And now we're going to use the next tool to try to find where the kidnappers took the image that they attached to the document. What is the name of the street? So let's go and use the secondary tool, which is the EXIF data tool. And so EXIF stands for Exchangeable Image File Format, and it's used to save metadata to image files. Whenever you take the photo with your smartphone or with somebody like that or something like that, there's a lot of information that actually gets embedded inside the image. And in this particular case, we actually even have an image, so the letter image, right? So in that image or in that in the metadata for the image, you would get things like the camera model that was used, the date and time of it, photo settings like the focal length, aperture, shutter speed, ISO settings. So there's a lot of good information that we can actually get. And the EXIF tool is the command line tool that we would be using to pull that off. So if you wanted to download it and install it, you would be doing the same thing. So sudo apt install, and then this is libimage dash exif tool dash perl. That is the command to actually install the exif tool utility on your machine, on your computer, in case you don't already have it. For me, it's already been installed, so I could do exif tool. Let me actually see what was the name of the image. So I can do exif tool, and then I can do the letter image.jpg, and there is all of the data. So there's a bunch of data here. And the questions that we have, it says, try to find where the kidnapper took the image they attached to their document. What is the name of the street? So we're looking for some kind of an address, essentially, for this. So binary data here. Let's see if there's anything interesting that might be useful to us as far as address is concerned. Okay, so actually, really, the only thing that we get over here is the GPS position, and it's like the latitude and longitude type of stuff. So, it says 51 degrees, 30 degrees. I don't know how to read this. I probably should get really good at reading this. But this would be, I think this is the only thing. Oh, right here. So we have the GPS latitude right here, and then we have the GPS longitude uh, over there as well. And it's just a matter of trying to find out where that is. So I wonder what I can do to pull that. I wonder if we could literally just copy paste that into Google. So basically, I came to Google Gemini, which is the AI tool from Google, and I said, hey, can you just convert this into something that I can put into Google Maps? And it converted for me into this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this, and we're going to paste it into Google and see if we can actually get something here that might be interesting for us. So if we go to Google Maps and look at this specific latitude, longitude, it gives me this thing right here. And what is this? Milk Street, I guess? Is that the specific location? It seems like Milk Street could be one. It could be Cheapside, Lawrence Lane. I feel like it's Milk Street. If I click on that, that might be Milk Street. It just depends. So, I mean, let's try it. Let's try a couple of these responses here and see which one might be the right one. So the first one I'm going to try is Milk, come on, Milk Street. All right, cool. It is Milk Street. Great. All right, so what is the model name of the camera that's used to take the photo? And that one should be a little bit easier for us to find. And it says lens ID is Canon EF 50mm. So we don't want the lens ID only. We want the actual model name of the camera. So I'm gonna go to the very, very top. It'll probably be at the very, very top of this. Yep, so it is actually towards the very, very top right there. So it's, you know, the make is right here and the camera model is the Canon EOS R6. So we're just gonna copy that and then we're gonna go and paste it. And I think that's actually the last question that we have here. So after I submit this, I believe we are done with, yep, we're done with the room officially. All right, so if you found this video useful, I do encourage you to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so that you get notified the next time that a video comes out, especially inside of the CySec101 training series, because we are going to be wrapping it up in the next couple of weeks. And then there's the Network Plus training series that's going to be coming out as well. And then after that one drops, there's going to be the Cybersecurity and AI integration training series. To teach you how to integrate with the API of various AIs and then train AIs to do essentially whatever you need to, because I believe that is the future skill for all security professionals and hackers. So definitely make sure that you like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. And if you have any questions about anything, or if you just want to say hi, make sure you also drop a comment. If you'd like to support this channel, consider joining Hackaholics Anonymous, the premier community for security professionals and hackers. We have 4 tiers: the supporter, agent, guardian, and master. Each tier gets their own Discord server and early access to content. The agent, guardian, and master levels get exclusive content, bug bounties, exclusive downloads, monthly Python automations, live streams with me, plus so much more. And to join, you can simply click the link in the description below, or you can go to our homepage and click the join button there, or you can go to youtube.com/@HankHacksHackers/join, and you'll be able to join Hackaholics Anonymous. I hope I see you in our Discord chats. If not, I hope I see you in the comments section, and that's it. It's your boy Hank Hackers, and at Hank Hacks Hackers, your favorite network and system attacker/protector. If no one else loves you, Hank loves you. Love, peace, and chicken grease, and I'll see you in the next video. Later. In episode 42 of the CySec101 training series, we're going to go through the fundamentals of incident response, and this is also part of the defensive security module of the Cybersecurity 101 pathway of TryHackMe. And in this particular video, we're going to go through, obviously, the intro to incident response. We're going to go through, what the overview of what an incident actually is, the various types of incidents, the incident response process, incident response techniques, and of course, we have a practical exercise, the lab work for incident response, and then the conclusion, and I'll give you a couple of final notes, and then you will be dismissed for today. This is a subscribers only room that's inside of TryHackMe. So if you're interested in trying this out, you can go ahead and get yourself a paid subscription to TryHackMe, and there's a link in the description below that'll give you a discount on your paid subscription. So that way, I think it's $12 normally, and then if you use the link, it ends up being $7. So it's I think it's a great service. A lot of universities actually use TryHackMe for their lab work because it's a controlled environment and you get a chance to, attack machines and do a bunch of hacking and cybersecurity exercises and all that stuff. So for what it's worth, I think it's really good. But for the most part, we're going to be going through the incident response fundamentals process today. And I think you're going to learn a lot. My voice just gave out. So I think you're going to learn a lot. I think you're going to get a lot out of it, and I'm excited to go through it with you. If you'd like to support this channel, consider joining Hackaholics Anonymous, the premier community for security professionals and hackers. We have 4 tiers: the supporter, agent, guardian, and master. Each tier gets their own Discord server and early access to content. The agent, guardian, and master levels get exclusive content, bug bounties, exclusive downloads, monthly Python automations, live streams with me, plus so much more. And to join, you can simply click the link in the description below, or you can go to our homepage and click the join button there, or you can go to youtube.com/@HankHacksHackers/join, and you will be able to join Hackaholics Anonymous. Now, without further ado, let us jump into the incident response fundamentals room. All right, the best way that we can explain this concept is to look at a scenario. So imagine living in a heavily insecure street with many expensive things in your home. You must be thinking of having a security guard and a few CCTV cameras, which is essentially cameras that are connected to the internet. In your home, right? Hiding the expensive material inside a hidden underground room is a good idea if any intruder successfully enters the house. And these are some of the things that you can plan for the safety of your home even before any kind of an attack occurs. So this will fall under the preparation element of security in general. Besides these proactive measures, have you ever considered that how things would work if someone actually bypassed the security and gained access to the house? You have to take a few other things into consideration if something like that happens. So if we look at the example that we just went through in the digital realm, so if we looked at the digital version of somebody attacking your quote unquote home, this is what a cyber attack entails, right? This is what it actually can mean. And there are a lot of different ways that an attack can take place. There are a lot of different damages or damage types that can take place for human beings or consumers, I guess we should call them. For consumers, it could be losing thousands of dollars, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. For companies, it's literally in the millions. The average cyber attack against a company costs $4.6 million. And if you looked at really, really big companies, something happened against the MGM Grand last year in 2024. Something happened against Microsoft in 2024. And for companies like that, it's in the tens of millions and hundreds of millions of dollars when they get attacked. So it's not a small thing, right? It's not a small type of a scenario or a small quote unquote incident, no pun intended, or I guess pun intended. So these are all considered cybersecurity incidents. And when you plan for the security of your home or your business, cybersecurity incidents also have the planning and resources that you need to account for to avoid huge losses. And incident response specifically handles an incident from start to end. So it could be a live situation. More often than not, it is a live situation, meaning that you've actually detected it and you're responding to it in real time. And it could be things like deploying security in several areas to prevent incidents, to fighting those actual incidents and minimizing their impact. And this is all a very thorough guideline, or at the very least, it should be a thorough guideline. So we're going to be going through the concepts or the elements of incident response and give you a chance to actually solve your first incident practically, and obviously wrap your head around it. Hopefully with the practical exercise, it'll help you wrap your mind around some of these concepts a little bit better. The objectives that we have for this video is the overview of what an incident is and the severity levels of incidents, what the common types of incidents are, the phases of incident response from the SANS and NIST frameworks, which are the industry standard frameworks for anything that is relevant to cybersecurity or technology in general. NIST especially because it's the National Institute of Standards and Technologies based out of the United States, but the standards that are covered by NIST are pretty foundational, and a lot of countries also follow those frameworks. So, and then we also are going to have the tools for incident detection and response, along with the role of playbooks and how they actually affect the ability and your efficacy, how efficiently you respond to an incident, and of course, the incident response plan. So these are the objectives that we have for today's video. The prerequisites for this would be the intro to defensive security, which is already out. I think it's 2 or 3 videos before this one, the defensive security introduction, and you just need to have a good understanding of what defensive security is and the various teams that are involved in defensive security, and ultimately how incident response plays into the general scope of defensive security. So we are going to begin this particular room, or specifically, I guess, the exercises and the content of this specific video. So what are incidents? Chances are that you have a variety of computing devices, or we can call them digital devices. And it could be your laptop, it could be your mobile phone, it could be, your iPad technically counts as a mobile device as well. But there are a variety of computing devices. Your smartwatch could be considered one of them. Your smart TV could be considered one of them. Computing devices come in all shapes and sizes. So some of the processes on these devices are interactive, meaning that you actually have to work with them. You need to give it some kind of an input, and then it'll give you some kind of an output. So playing a video game or watching a video, for example. And then there's the non-interactive processes that are usually running in the background, that they don't require you to actually interact with them, but they are a part of the necessities, the fundamentals, or the foundation that actually makes that device run. So they are necessary. These are just necessary for the device to actually operate and allow you to do whatever it is that you want to do with that device. So whatever they are, whatever the types of processes are, they generate events, right? They generate several types of events. And whatever they do, an event is logged for what they have actually done. So events are generated for everything that's done. You click on something, there's an event generated for that. You spend an amount of time inside an application, there's an event generated for that. And all of those events are logged. Depending on the type of activity that you're doing, there's a log that is being generated that is tracking that activity, or at least there should be a log being generated that's tracking that activity, especially if you're inside of a business environment, right? So maybe not for your personal devices, maybe you don't have logs turned on for everything, maybe you only have the necessary logs like the security logs or something like that. But in a business environment, there's a log for pretty much everything that you do on a computer, or a computing device, I should say. So these events are generated in huge numbers regularly, because literally every time you click on something, it's another line item inside of these logs. So if you can imagine throughout your day or your week or the month that you're working on a specific machine, there are a lot of different clicks that you do. There are a lot of files that you open and files that you modify. And every time that you log in and you log out, and every time you open your browser, like literally for everything that you do, there's an event that's being generated. So they become thousands of events just for one user. So the main reason for this is many processes run on a device, and each perform different routine tasks, and each of them generate numerous events. And these can sometimes point to something terrible going on your actual device. So how do we check the vast number of events and see if they point to something destructive or some kind of destructive activity? These are security solutions that we would use to solve a problem like this, to actually digest or ingest all of those logs and those events. And they're ingested into the security solutions as logs, and the security solutions can find harmful activities that are inside of those logs. So they make our job as the security professionals easier, but the real challenge after the security solution points or what is the challenge after the security solution has been pointed out. That's where the work actually really begins, because sometimes there's nothing going on, but sometimes something actually is going on, and now you need to respond to that incident that's taking place. So this is what essentially it looks like. Let me see if I don't think I can make this any bigger. Can we zoom in on this? There we go. So, explorer.exe, LSAS, SVC host, win init, all of these things are executables that are inside of a Windows environment, and the logs from these various executables are being fed into your security solution, and that security solution is generating a feed for the security team, and it's generating a feed based on all of these the events that are coming from these various applications, and it only sends alerts to the security team when something fishy is going on. So when a security solution finds an event or a group of events associated with a possible harmful activity, it triggers an alert, and the security team then analyzes these. Some of the alerts may be false positives, meaning that the tool, whatever the security tool it is that you're using, said that this looks fishy, when in actuality it was just somebody that forgot their password because they were on vacation for a couple of weeks, and they forgot what their password was. So when they came back, they tried to log in a few times, and then all those failed logins generated an alert on the security solution. some of the other events are actually going to be true positives. And the alerts that point to something dangerous but are not harmful are referred to as false positives, which is what we just talked about. In contrast, the alerts that point to something harmful and are actually dangerous are called true positives. And we can get a better understanding of this from these explanations here. So, security solution raised an alert on a high amount of data being transferred from one system to an external IP address. Upon analyzing this alert, the security team found that the subject system was undergoing a backup process to a cloud storage device, which caused this, and this is known as a false positives. And then we would need to optimize our security solution to say, hey, you know what, this IP address that's being transferred to is actually one of our IP addresses. So in the future, don't give me an alert for this, it's fine. And then the more you optimize your security solution, the better it becomes at actually pointing out the true positives for you. And the security solution raises an alert on a phishing attempt on one of the organization's users. Upon analyzing this alert, the security team found that the email was a phishing email sent to this user to compromise the system. This is known as a true positive. So these true positive alerts are sometimes referred to as incidents. And assuming the alert is now categorized as an incident, the next phase is to give a severity level to the incident. So imagine you're part of the security team and you get multiple incidents simultaneously. Which one do you respond to first, right? This is where the idea of incident severity helps. And they can be categorized as low, medium, high, or critical. Now, obviously, we want to respond to critical first. And then low is maybe sometimes not even necessary to respond to because there are so many critical and high level alerts that it's like, okay, well, we really need to take care of all of that. And then once the dust has settled, we can look at everything else. So critical severity incidents are obviously the highest priority. So these actually have a scoring system as well, depending on what type of database that you're using for this. But for the most part, the security systems that you use, the SIM, Splunk or some kind of intrusion detection system, those things will categorize them for you. So if we were to look at this little graphic here, so these are the incidents, right? And the false positives are being discarded because we've tweaked it and we've optimized our security appliance, or at the very least, security team is looking at it and they're saying these are false positives, so don't even worry about them. The rest of them are incidents, and this is an identity access management that is low. This is BC34. I don't know what BC stands for in this particular case. We have LPT, that's medium, ACM, high, TKS, critical, and MCA, critical. So these are the various titles that have been assigned to them. The only one that I recognize off the top of my head is IAM, but we can see the severities, right? You don't even need to really worry about what the acronym breaks down to. You need to worry about, okay, these two are critical, this is high, and this is medium. So we need to take care of these two immediately. The critical ones have to be taken care of immediately, and then so on and so forth. So what is triggered after an event or group of events points out a harmful activity? And that would be an alert. So let me make sure my keyboard is actually working here. There we go. And then if a security solution correctly identifies a harmful activity from a set of events, what type of alert is this? So if it's an actual harmful activity, that would be a true positive. And then if a fire alarm is triggered by smoke after cooking, is this a true positive or a false positive? And that would be a false positive because there's no actual fire that is going on. So these are this was our introduction to incident response. So let's actually look at the types of incidents. So not every type of incident that's generated or a harmful activity that's generated is an actual hacking attempt that's taking place, right? It could be possible that it is a hacking attempt, but sometimes it's not. So we previously talked about this incident that was related to a phishing email, which probably came with a malicious attachment. If downloaded into the system, this attachment could have harmful consequences. And this is one type of incident. There are other types of incidents, and all of these things could technically be, maybe it could be a hack, or it could just be something else that is being done. So a hack would be an active attack against your system. We can think about it like that, where you're being actively attacked in a live environment by a group of other attackers. There are other types of ways that your systems can get compromised, and it may not necessarily be an active hack, right? I think that's what they're referring to right now. So a malware infection, for example, malware is malicious software. It's like a term that's generated for malicious software. And it's a malicious program that can damage a system, network, or application. The majority of incidents are associated with malware infections, and there are different types of malware, each with a unique potential to cause damage. So infections are mostly caused by files that can be text, documents, executables, etc. And then we have security breaches, and this arises when an unauthorized person gets access to confidential data, and sometimes we don't want them to see or have these things, or something that we don't want them to see or have. And security breaches are of the utmost importance, as many businesses rely on their confidential data, which must only be accessible to authorized personnel. Then we have a data leak that happens when confidential information of an individual organization is exposed to unauthorized entities. Many attackers use data leaks for reputational damage to their victims, or use this technique to threaten their victims and get what they need from them, sometimes called ransom. So they'll actually hold you at ransom, and then they want money to be able to release your data or not disclose your data, I guess. Unlike security breaches, data leaks can also be unintentionally caused by human errors or misconfigurations. There are several examples of this in the Security Plus training series that I put on the channel. So if you actually go watch the Security Plus training, there's a playlist dedicated to it. There are a lot of examples that we talk about that were not by actual malicious actors. It was just somebody inside the company that was careless, or they didn't know what they were doing and they misconfigured their infrastructure, and then now there's a data leak or there's a potential for harm taking place. Insider attacks happen from within an organization, and this could be a disgruntled employee infecting the whole network through a USB on his last day. And it's an example of an insider attack. Someone within the organization intentionally initiating an attack comes under this category, and they can be hazardous, as an insider always has greater access to resources or intelligence or your inner workings of your company than an outsider does. And a lot of times they could actually be working with an outsider to actually pull off whatever the attack is. And an insider attack may not necessarily be a disgruntled employee. It could be somebody that's being held at blackmail, or they're being threatened for whatever reason. And we see this a lot in these movies about, kidnapping or extortion or something like that, where they find somebody that's working inside the company, and then they go and hold their child at ransom, or they hold their child as a threat. As a hostage? There you go. That's the word I'm looking for. They hold their child as a hostage, and then they ask the person to betray their company. And of course, the person would choose their child over their company. So it just goes on like that. But that's an insider attack. That's literally what happens when you take advantage of somebody that's on the inside, and then you use them to get your attack pulled off. Denial of service attack is an interesting one, and this is one of the ones that I would say is kind of a little bit easier to pull off than anything else, especially if it's just a singular denial of service instead of a distributed denial of service. And availability is one of the elements of the CIA triad. So we have confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And what that means is that your services would be available to your legitimate users, right? You want your employees or your customers, your website visitors, to actually be able to access your website. You want your website or your service to be available to them. And a denial of service happens when somebody attacks your system. They send you a flood of malicious traffic or, dummy traffic, whatever it is, to bring your service down. Right? So a denial of service attack, or a DOS attack, is where the attacker floods your system, network, or application with false requests, eventually making it unavailable to legitimate users, meaning there's a denial of service to those legitimate users. And this costs the company money. It'll cost the company their reputation and their credibility, right? Especially if it goes on for a long time. So this is one of the more common attacks that take place against really large companies. So all of these incidents have a unique potential to impact the victim. We haven't even talked about all of the type of incidents that could take place. These are just some of the more commonly known ones. And they cannot be compared in terms of severity with the impact that they create. This is because a particular incident can be disastrous for one organization, while it can cause minor damage to another organization. So XYZ Corp may not be heavily impacted by a data leak, as the information that it stores can be useless to anybody else. However, it can go under a massive loss in case of a denial of service attack on the primary website. What happened to Microsoft last year, where I think it was like for one day, it was not even a full 24 hours, but there was like a good, let's say 12-hour period that all of the Microsoft operating systems across the world had crashed. They were not able to operate. And so what happened was during that day, and I think this also included the Microsoft website and essentially everything. I don't know if it was because of a vulnerability that was actually exploited or it was because of some kind of an update that went wrong. But for that amount of time that they were out of service, it was like estimated that they lost $100 million or something like that. And that's insane to think about that for like half a day, a company can lose $100 million. So that's what happened, or probably even more, honestly. But that's what happens, right? So for a company like Microsoft, the denial of service attack could actually cost a lot of money to a company like that. So these are just a couple of the examples. Now, a user's system got compromised after downloading a file attachment from an email. What type of incident is this? So their system got compromised after downloading a file attachment. And what could be? It could be a security breach, technically. It could be a malware infection, technically. It could be any of these things. But it says a user's system got compromised. Let's see. Okay. All right. So the phishing email is technically a part of the malware infection category. What type of incident aims to disrupt the availability of an application? So availability has to do with service. So we can say denial of service. And there we go. All right. So incident response process. So we've detected the incident. How do we respond to it? The incident response process cannot be improvised. It can't be something that just happens spontaneously. There needs to be some kind of a framework or a playbook or something that is used. And for the most part, it's referred to as an incident response framework. And there are generic approaches to follow any incident for effective response, right? So we'll discuss the two widely used ones, which is the SANS and NIST. And these are organizations that contribute to cybersecurity. SANS has offered various courses and certificates in cybersecurity. NIST played its role in developing standards and guidelines for cybersecurity. Both of them have quite similar incident response frameworks. And the SANS incident response framework has 6 phases, which can be called, I guess, PICERL or PICERL. I don't know how you would really look at it. But so we have preparation, we have identification, containment, eradication, recovery, and lessons learned. And essentially, this is exactly what you think it is, right? Each title is pretty self-explanatory. So preparation goes to do with looking at intelligence that you have, looking at your systems, and finding any necessary resources to handle the incident and preparing them. And a part of your preparation could be your playbook, the steps to follow, the people to call when something like an incident actually takes place. So having a proper incident response plan is the preparation element of this, and it has a lot of different elements of what you should do, who you should call, what you should not do, the order in which that you should do something. All of those things fall under preparation. Now, as a part of preparation, you have a process in place to actually help you identify something when it happens. So this looks for any kind of abnormal behavior that may indicate an incident, and a lot of times it's being done by your security appliance. So Splunk, for example, or Kibana, something like these things. They're the ones that are used to actually identify when something is actually going wrong, and then you determine whether or not it's a false positive or a true positive. Now, if it is a true positive, the goal is to isolate it, to prevent it from spreading to the rest of your network. So if you notice that it's just one computer that's been affected, you want to contain it to that one computer and prevent it from spreading to the rest of your network. You can either, block that computer off completely and not let it access anything else in that subnet of the network. If it's actually a segment of your network that's been infected, then you want to contain that segment and prevent it from talking or connecting to any other segment. So completely block off that segment, disconnect the Wi-Fi from it, anything, right? So whatever you can do to actually contain it from spreading to minimize the impact of the attack. And this is done by isolating the victim machine or the victim subnet or segment of the network, disabling the compromised user, etc. And once you've done that, the next phase is to eradicate whatever the infection is, whatever the malware is. Remove the threat from the attack environment. And it could be anything, right? So the eradication phase will ensure the subject environment is clean, and now we can move to the recovery phase. And sometimes you need to wipe the system completely to actually eradicate it, because it might be a really, really hardcore type of malware or something that happened. And the recovery phase it relies on regular backups. It relies on redundancy systems. If one of your routers was taken down, then you need a backup router. If one of your servers was taken down, you need a backup server. So recovery relies heavily on how frequently you actually back up your data and whether or not you have a redundancy in place. So literally a second server, like a contingent server, something that would serve as the backup equipment in case your primary source is actually affected and now it's down for whatever reason, right? So recovery and eradication, I mean, all of these things actually do go hand in hand, but sometimes eradication requires that you actually wipe whatever that server is to make sure that you get rid of the malicious software or whatever it is that's been infecting that server. And in order for the business to continue, there needs to be a recovery point that we can go back to as far as the amount of data that we've actually backed up, so that we can go to business as usual before our server was infected. And then once we have all of these things, once the dust has settled, we'll do a meeting with everybody that was involved, and then we'll say, okay, what lessons did we learn, right? What can we add to our playbook? What can we add to our planning element, our preparation element, to make sure that this doesn't happen again? And who should we call this time? How can we respond to this faster? How can we make sure that this specific thing doesn't happen to us ever again? Because you can never really prevent attacks from taking place, but you can try your very best to make sure that the same attack does not take place. So that's all part of the lessons learned element, and everything that you learn goes back inside of your playbook and goes to the preparation phase. And then you go back through the preparation phase and you say, okay, let's tighten our systems a little bit. Let's make sure that security is amped up. We have better backups. We have more recent backups, whatever it is. You learn your lesson, and then you go back into preparation to prepare for potentially any other attack that might take place. So that is the SANS incident cycle. And if we look at this image, you see this right here, like this is continued, right? This is a continuous type of a plan. And usually incident response in cybersecurity is always continuous. There's no such thing as stagnant, right? You never stop. You never stop improving. And sometimes the incident response cycle is improved by an internal penetration test. It might not even be something that happened maliciously. It could be that the company hires an external company or like a third-party penetration testing company, and they say, hey, attack us. We just want to see how our team is going to respond to this. And then based on that, they improve their playbooks and their preparation. So this is a continuous cycle that happens all the time. It should be happening all the time so that the company is constantly improving and staying ahead of hackers, ideally. Now, the incident response framework of NAIST is similar to the SANS framework, but it's reduced to 4 steps instead of the 6 that we just saw. So there's preparation, detection, analysis, containment, eradication, and recovery. All of these things are done inside of the same step. And then you have post-incident activity, which is the lessons learned element as well. So this is the comparison of those two things. So you can see how preparation is same on both, identification is same on both, and then containment, eradication, and recovery has been condensed into one on an ISD side, and then lessons learned, which is post-incident activity. So that is what that looks like. The organization that you work with, they could look at either of those frameworks, or they could come up with something of their own based on those frameworks. And there's always going to be a formal document. At the very least, there should be a formal document that lists all of the relevant organizational procedures, and this is known as our incident response plan. And this underlines the approach during any incident. It's approved by senior management, consists of the procedures to be followed before, during, and after an incident has been completed. and this outlines the roles and the responsibilities during an incident, the incident response methodology, communication plan with stakeholders, including law enforcement. So there's always a call tree that says, call this person first, and then this person next, and then this person, da da da. So there's the communication plan, including law enforcement. Sometimes there needs to bring the legal team into play. Sometimes we need to bring the marketing or the PR team into play. If our customers' information has been damaged or stolen or something like that, we need to know how to talk to the press about it. So there's a lot of different things that are technically involved inside of the incident response plan. These are just the key elements of it. And of course, the escalation path to be followed, how to escalate this to your supervisor or the people that are higher up in the company, the CEO and the CIO, so on and so forth. So the security team disables a machine's internet connection after an incident. Which phase of the SANS cycle is this? So this is when we contain it. So that would be containment. Which phase of the NIST corresponds with the lessons learned phase of this? And this would be the post-incident response. Or no, post-incident, I think it's post-incident activity. I think that's what it is. Very good. All right, cool. So let's look at the incident response techniques. We have already kind of looked at the identification or detection portion of the incident response lifecycle, and that's when you use a tool like a SIM, which is a security information and event management solution. There are other tools that are also used to do the containment part of it or the eradication part of it. So just looking at the very, very top right here, the security information event management is where all of the logs and events are stored into one location, and then all of those events are correlated, meaning they're connected to each other to see what their relationship is, so that there could be a pattern that's noticed or a behavioral element that's noticed that will help us see if there's an incident that's taking place. Then we have the AntiVirus that detects malicious programs, and usually it goes based on the signature of those programs or the source code of those programs, and it says, hey, this looks fishy based on the database that I have access to, and I think this is a malicious program in our system and it needs to be wiped, or I'm preventing it from launching, and then it sends a report. And then we have the endpoint detection and response, which is deployed on every endpoint. So if you look at your computer, your cell phone, and your laptop, and your iPad, and your smartwatch, if you look at every single one of those, technically that would be 4 or let's say 5 endpoints, right? So we have each one of those things has something that is installed on it that turns each endpoint into an agent, and that agent reports to the manager. And the manager is installed on 1 or 2 key servers that gets all of the data from all of these different endpoints. And then based on the activity and based on what's going on those endpoints, that data is also fed into the SIM, and then the data is correlated so we can see what's going on. So endpoint detection and response is deployed on every system, and it protects it against some advanced threats. And this can also contain and eradicate the threat based on what we detect, right? So that's how we can actually isolate it on each one of those devices. If we've noticed that a device has been infected, we can actually use the EDR resource or the endpoint detection and response resource to actually isolate it and then eradicate it from that device. After incidents are identified, certain procedures must be followed, including investigating the extent of the attack, taking necessary actions to prevent further damage and eliminate it from the root. And they may be different for different kinds of incidents. In this scenario, having a step-by-step instruction to deal with each kind of incident will help you save a lot of time, and this is why we have playbooks. Playbooks are the guidelines, and these are parts of our incident response plan, basically. It could technically be an incident response plan itself. And it could be, this is what could potentially happen for a phishing email. So inside of your playbook, you have these steps. Notify all the stakeholders that there's a phishing email incident. Determine if the email was malicious by conducting header and body analysis of the email. Look for any attachments within the email. Determine if anybody opened the actual attachment. Isolate the infected system from the network and block the email sender. And then, of course, go to your lessons learned and reporting, all that. Run books, on the other hand, are the detailed step-by-step execution of specific steps during different incidents, and these may vary based on the resources available for investigation. And usually runbooks are a part of a SOAR system, a security orchestration, automation, and response, which kind of goes hand in hand with the SIM system. So a SIM does a really good job of detecting and creating alerts. A SOAR will actually respond to those alerts automatically, and it'll either block something or whatever their response is that you want it to have. The runbook is technically an automated set of instructions on what you want your security appliances to do on your behalf. And of course, you would get an alert that this is what's going on and this is what they did, and then you would need to investigate further. So step-by-step comprehensive guidelines for incident response are known as our playbooks. All right. And cool. All right, now we can actually go into our lab work here, our practical exercise. So here's the scenario. We are going to initiate an incident by downloading an attachment from a phishing email. It's malware. And once we download it, the incident begins and we need to start investigating. The first phase is to see how many hosts are infected with that same file. And there are many chances that a single phishing campaign could actually target an entire email list. So multiple employees could actually open the same file, right? So we'll see some hosts on which the file was executed after getting downloaded and some hosts on which the file was only downloaded. And you'll perform the necessary actions on these hosts and see a detailed timeline of the events that was infected. And then we're going to get some answers for these questions, and ultimately there should be a flag. So I'm going to zoom out of this a little bit, and then we're going to click the View Site button. And then from there, we are going to launch this thing and see what we can actually do. So here we go. So let's zoom out one more. I think that's pretty good. Okay, cool. So we have Katie Smith, Jeff Johnson. Let me see if I can zoom in like this. Great. Okay. So Katie Smith, Jeff Johnson, Mark Taylor, HR department, Michael Brown, IT support, Okay, so find Jeff Johnson's email and download the attachment. So here's Jeff Johnson's email. This is the attachment, and we're now downloading the attachment. And boom, we have officially downloaded the attachment, malware detected. So let's take actions here. So it's been quarantined. So we need to actually, or we should be quarantining it. So on 1/25/2025 is, and then there's on 2, oh, I see. So on 1/25/2025 was the first one, and then on 2/10/2025, which I think is actually today's date. No, it's not. Okay. All right, so never mind. So we have these two, and then any other, yeah. So these are the two that I got to do. So I'm going to quarantine this one. I'm going to quarantine that one. And then now we can investigate what's going on. So malware detected on the host, take actions to isolate the host. And host isolated, now you can view the process timeline. So let's look at this. So we had Explorer, and then Chrome, and then the file was downloaded. The file itself is the payslip.pdf, because that's always a very interesting name, right? Payslip, pay grades, pay structure, any of these things will always be enough where it's like, oh, I want to see how much somebody got paid, who got paid, how much are the CEOs getting paid, all that stuff, right? So once you actually download it, there is the PowerShell that's opened up, and then the malicious DNS query that's done. And is that what it is? I think that's what it is, right? Is there anything else to this? I feel like there's nothing else. So, all right, so finish this case. And, oh, all right, so that was it, I guess. So there's the flag. That was really easy. Okay, so let me just put the flag at the bottom right. I mean, this is an intro to incident response. So, okay, that is super easy. So let's see. What was the name of the malicious email sender? All right, so let's restart this one more time. The malicious email sender is Jeff Johnson. So that's the malicious email sender. Okay, what was the threat vector? The threat vector is an email attachment, right? So email attachment. How many devices downloaded the email attachment? I think there was 2 from what I remember. Okay, I guess it wasn't 2. So how can I see how many devices downloaded the attachment? So we'll do this. Let's do that one more time. I see. Okay, so there are, I guess, three devices, right? Because this one actually executed the attachment. These two did not execute it, therefore we can quarantine it. So there are three devices. Very good. How many devices executed the file? There was one device that executed the file, and that's it. We are officially done with our incident. That was pretty, I mean, it's an intro. It's an intro to incident response. So I understand that it's kind of easy and straightforward. So let's do our conclusion and then we can wrap it up. All right, so in this room, we actually covered what an incident is, what incident response is. We talked about the various stages of incident response. We also talked about the techniques that we could use, the types of tools that we would use to respond to an incident. And we even did a quick little exercise of an incident response situation that had to do with a phishing email. So I hope you actually got value out of this. This was pretty interesting to me. I always like just going through the fundamentals. I like going through the foundational stuff and getting a review of everything. And technically, I've done really advanced cases on this channel, but it's always nice to just go back to the basics and get a review of all of the fundamentals. So hopefully you actually got some value out of it as well, and you were able to learn something really exciting. If this is your first introduction to incident response, as you saw, it's really not that complicated, right? So the tools actually do a lot of the work for you. And then your job as the investigator, your job as the security analyst is to just respond quickly to whatever alerts are generated to make sure that it doesn't spread through the rest of your network and get ahead of the game. And then, of course, report it to your supervisor and so on and so forth. So it's fairly simple. Most of these things, unless you are hired, which if you're starting out in cybersecurity, you will never be hired to create something like this for a company, right? You'll usually come in as a junior analyst, and then you'll learn by shadowing someone and responding to some incidents and things like that. And then when you become a senior security analyst or a security engineer, at that point, you'll go into creating a playbook so that you can help a company prepare for incidents and things like that. So for the most part, as you go in, you're mostly going to be using tools that have already been set up, and your environment will just be ready for you to kind of jump into and get things going. If you found this video useful, I do encourage you to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so that you get notified the next time that a video comes out, either in the CySec101 pathway that we're on right now, or for Network Plus that's going to be coming out hopefully in the next week. And then we have the AI for cybersecurity, where we actually integrate AI solutions with security solutions so we can train AI to help us with cybersecurity. There's a lot of great stuff that's coming out in the near future on this channel. So I want you to get notified. I want you to be in the loop as these things happen. So make sure that you like, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell so that you get notified. And then if you have any questions, or if you have any comments, or if you just want to say hi or whatever, drop a comment in the comment section below. I always love listening to what people have to say and hearing from our community. I answer all the questions that come in. If there's a big enough question, I'll create a video or a playlist as a response to your question. So I love hearing from people. So again, like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell so that you get notified the next time that a video comes out. And of course, drop a comment if you just want to say hi, if you have any questions, anything like that. If you'd like to support this channel, consider joining Hackaholics Anonymous, the premier community for security professionals and hackers. We have 4 tiers: the supporter, agent, guardian, and master. Each tier gets their own Discord server and early access to content. The agent, guardian, and master levels get exclusive content, exclusive downloads, monthly Python automations, live streams with me, bug bounties, plus so much more. And to join, you can simply click the link in the description below, or you can go to our homepage and click the join button there, or you can go to youtube.com/@HankHacksHackers/join, and you'll be able to join Hackaholics Anonymous. I hope I see you in the Discord servers. If not, I hope I see you in the comment section, and that's it. It's your boy Hank Hackerson at Hank Hacks Hackers, your favorite network and system attacker/protector. Love, peace, and chicken grease. If no one else loves you, Hank loves you, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace. In episode 42 of the CySec101 training series, we're going to go through the fundamentals of logs, and this is probably the least popular topic among every human being that goes into cybersecurity, mainly because of the fact that logs themselves are not very exciting. what you can do with logs is actually quite exciting, and you can obviously get a lot of good use out of them. They're an epic pillar of the cybersecurity framework, or the overall context, or what should I say, the world of cybersecurity. It's one of the biggest elements, if not the biggest element, that plays into what you can do inside of cybersecurity, is the content that is stored inside of these various logs. Now, this is a part of the defensive security module that's a part of the Cybersecurity 101 pathway of TryHackMe. And as far as this concerned, or the outline of it is concerned, we have obviously the introduction to logs, the types of logs, Windows event logs analysis, which is a practical exercise, the web server access log analysis, which is another practical exercise, and then we have the conclusion for today. So this is an introduction to logs, so obviously it's not going to be this like crazy thing that you would need to freak out about, but it's always great to have your foundations reaffirmed. So if you are aware of logs, if you've seen a video that I've done on logs, because I've done multiple videos on logs, then this is a great review. But if you've never been introduced to the concept of logs, this is the Cybersecurity 101 introduction to logs. So this is going to be, I think it's going to be useful for essentially any viewer that goes through it. If you'd like to support this channel and get access to me via Discord, consider joining Hackaholics Anonymous. We have 4 tiers: the supporter, agent, guardian, and master. Each tier gets their own Discord server and early access to content. The agent, guardian, and master levels get exclusive content, bug bounties, exclusive downloads, monthly Python automations, live streams with me, plus so much more. And to join, you can simply click the link in the description below, or you can go to our homepage and click the join button there, or you can go to youtube.com/@hankhacks/hackers/join, and you'll be able to join Hackaholics Anonymous. And that said, we are going to now jump into the log fundamentals room. All right, as clever as attackers are, security teams usually are even more clever. Attackers typically avoid leaving obvious traces on the victim's side or on the victim's machine, but the security team always figures out at least how they did the attack, how they executed their attack, and sometimes they're even able to find out who was behind the attack. So suppose that a few policemen are investigating the disappearance of a precious locket in a snowy jungle cabin. They observed that the wooden door of the cabin was brutally damaged, the ceiling collapsed, there were some footprints on the snowy path to that cabin, and they discovered some CCTV footage, which is cameras essentially, from a neighboring residence. By placing together all of these traces, the police successfully determined who was behind the attack. Various traces are found in several such cases, and putting all of these things together takes you closer to the criminal, right? So this is essentially responding to an incident, right? That's essentially what they're doing. And then, of course, they're doing forensics investigations as well. So we talked about those 2 key concepts in the last 2 videos, the incident response and digital forensics. So it seems like these traces play a big role in the investigation. What if something happened with a digital device? Where do we find all these traces? And these are found inside a system where the traces of an attack could be fetched, and the logs contain most of those traces. So logs are the digital footprints that are left behind by any activity, and pretty much every activity that is done on a computer or on some kind of device generates a log item. And it could be normal or it could be malicious. So tracing down the activity and the individual based on the execution of that activity becomes easier because of logs. So the use cases of logs are a lot. These are just a handful, I would say. Obviously, you can monitor security events, so they help us detect anomalous behavior. When real-time monitoring is used, incident investigation and forensics. So these are the traces of every kind of activity. So the logs themselves hold traces of everything, and there's details on what happened during the incident. So the security team uses those logs to perform the analysis of the root cause of that incident. Troubleshooting is also a very, very key element. Troubleshooting is done a lot using logs to try to find out what the error was in the system or the application, and to obviously diagnose whatever the issues are and actually help in fixing those issues. We can also use logs to monitor performance, and we can also use logs to complete auditing exercises and to make sure that we are compliant with the various regulations that would govern our industry. So there's governance, there's regulations, there's compliance. All of those things can also be done with logs, especially when an auditor comes in and they want to make sure that you're actually being compliant. They will look at your logs to see what kind of data you're collecting, how frequently you're collecting them, etc. So what we're going to do inside of this video is we're going to go through the various types of logs and how they're maintained, and we're going to actually investigate a couple of logs as well. So the objective here is to learn about the different types, how to analyze the logs, analyze Windows events and web access logs, and where can we find the majority of attacks. I bet you guessed it already. It is inside of the log. So let's talk about the types of logs. So imagine you have to investigate an issue in a system through the logs, and you open the log file of that system and you can see that there's a bunch of stuff inside of that log file, and it can get overwhelming very quickly. So logs are segregated into multiple categories according to the type of information they provide. And now you just need to look into the specific log file that causes the issue that you're trying to solve, right? Or that holds the information that you're looking for. So if you want successful logins from yesterday at a specific time frame, then you would look at the security logs essentially. And there's also something called the authentication logs. Those can also be used as well. So instead of looking at everything, you would go to the specific category that actually holds the information that you would need. So these are the various types of logs that we have. So the sys logs or the system logs can help with running issues or fixing issues in the operating system. They provide information on various operating activities. So the system startup and shutdown, driver loading, system error, hardware, all of those events are inside of the sys logs, system logs. We have the security logs that help detect and investigate incidents. They provide information on security-related activities. So these are the authentication, authorization, security policy changes, user account changes, abnormal activity, all of those events. We have application logs that are specific to any individual application, and they're either interactive or non-interactive activity happening inside the application will be logged here. So you have user interaction, application update, application changes, and application error events. You have the audit logs that provide information on system changes and user events. These logs are helpful for compliance requirements and can play a vital role in security monitoring as well, because you can actually see the user events or system changes that were done by a malicious actor. These would be inside of the audit log. So access to data, right? So when was a certain file opened, for example? Data access, system changes, user activities, policy enforcement, all of those events are inside the audit. The network log provides information about the actual network connection, so outgoing and incoming traffic. And this is good for troubleshooting network issues and to obviously go through incident response investigations. So incoming network, outgoing network, network connections, and network firewall logs are just all under the network logs. And we have, of course, the access logs that provide detailed information about the access to the different resources. And they are different as well because it could be the web server, the database, the application, or an API that was accessed. So access logs can also go in a wide range of different environments as well. There are various other types of logs. This is not the all-inclusive list, right? There's literally probably a few dozen other types of logs. It just depends on the system or application or the operating system that you're actually using. So now that we understand what they are and what they can be done, we are going to actually look at how we can analyze them and extract information from them. And log analysis is a technique that we would do to, extract the valuable data that we need. So it involves looking for signs of abnormal or unusual activities, searching for specific activity or anomalies in the logs. And doing that with the naked eye is impossible because there are thousands, if not millions, of events, especially depending on the size of the network or how many users are there. So we have manual and automated techniques for log analysis. The manual techniques would be most likely done through a command line. Automated techniques would be done through some kind of a tool that we would use that is specific to dealing with logs. So we're going to do log analysis on Windows and web servers in the next couple of minutes. So which type of log contains information regarding the incoming and outgoing traffic? And that would be the network logs. which type of log contains the authentication and authorization events, and these would be our security logs. And that's it. So let's look at Windows event logs analysis. The Windows operating system is very similar to every other operating system in the sense that there are a lot of different segregated log files that would address different types of activities on a Windows machine. So things like the application logs, where there are many applications running on the system and information related to them is logged into this file, and it includes errors, warnings, compatibility issues, etc. The system logs has to do with the actual operating system itself and the various running operations. Any information related to those is logged in the syslog. Information includes driver issues, hardware issues, system startup and shutdown information, services information, and then we have security, which is the most important log in terms of our purposes, which is cybersecurity, which is this whole channel is about cybersecurity. So it logs all security related activities, including user authentication, changes in user accounts, security policy changes, etc. Now, most of these things are actually handled inside something called the event viewer, right? So obviously we have other log files as well. So I'm not gonna just kind of assume that that's the only type. Just always keep in mind that there's other log types unless you're looking at a full list of logs, which is very, very hard to narrow down because it depends on the operating system and the application, etc. So most of the other logs that we looked at in the previous section had no built-in application to view them. Windows, however, is very friendly with this because they actually have an internal application that comes with every Windows installation, and it's called the Event Viewer, and it has a GUI, a graphical user interface, to view and search for anything and filter through them, etc. So we can actually just either search for Event Viewer or click on the startup button and type Event Viewer, and it'll open it up, and this is exactly what it looks like. And then things are narrowed down by events typically. So there's always the description, log name, logged, and an event ID. So the description obviously has the detailed information of the activity. The log name indicates which log file it actually belongs to. The logged is the time of the activity, so when it was logged. And the event ID are the unique identifiers for the specific types of activities. And usually when we're filtering something, we will use event IDs. So 4624 would be the activity of a successful login, right? So if you search for that, then you can narrow down everything to all successful logins. 4625 is the account failed to log in. 4634, account successfully logged off. 4720, account was created. 4724, an attempt was made to reset the account's password. 4722, user account was enabled. 25, account was disabled, and 26, account was deleted. These are very specific to all things cybersecurity. So if somebody created a new account, it could potentially be that somebody got access to our network and now they're creating a new user account to give themselves free reign and allow them to move around in the system, right? So, or they create a user account so that they can come back as a part of persistence so that they can re-log into the system and not have to actually hack us again. They would actually use a credential that they created to come back into the system, right? So these are very, very important elements, and essentially you can go through the chronological order of these, right? So a user account was successfully logged in, or it was failed to logged in. So multiple failed logins would be a brute force attack attempt, and then finally they were able to log in. That means they were successful, and then they finally logged out. But while they were there, they created a new user account, and then they reset the account's password. They enabled the user account, then ultimately disabled and deleted it when they were done doing whatever they needed to do, because they wanted to delete all traces. They wanted to delete their digital tracks, so to speak. So there are literally thousands more event IDs, and it's not necessary to remember them, but it's good to know where to find them. And I always just Google it. Like if I want to find out what the potential event IDs are for a specific log type inside of operating system Windows, then I'll just Google it, and then there will be a list of event IDs, and then based on that, you can kind of narrow down what your investigation would be looking for, essentially. So what we do is we do the filter log or filter current log feature so that we can actually apply the event IDs that we want. And then once we have that, we just put the event ID inside the event ID section, and it'll actually do it. So I'm gonna demonstrate all this. That's why I'm kind of breezing through this. Once you apply your filter, all of the event IDs that are actually viewed are then going to be those specific event IDs, as we can see right here. The event ID actually changes, and you only see the event IDs that you were searching for. So let us see here. This actual exercise is what we're going to be doing. The scenario is that on Friday, a critical organization reported being a victim of a cyber attack. Upon investigation, the critical data was exfiltrated from a file server in the organization network. The security team was successful in determining the username and IP address of the compromised system in the network, which had access to the file server at the time of the attack. We need to find out the activities of the attacker in his compromised system before he took access to the file server. So we are going to launch our virtual machine, which I've already done. You can also log into it via VPN and remote desktop by using these credentials. You would need to have a paid account with TryHackMe in order to be able to pull this off. I'm just using my web browser to launch the virtual machine, so I'm not going to be doing the VPN or RDP login, but this is available in case you want to do it. This IP address changes every single time that you start this room and then you start that virtual machine. So this is not going to be an IP address that by the time that you watch this IP address is not going to be up. Even if you have a paid account with TryHackMe, it's just not going to, maybe it will be, but I highly, highly doubt that it'll be up. And if it is up, it's going to be for a different room inside of TryHackMe. So just keep that portion in mind. You need a VPN connection to TryHackMe to be able to remote desktop into it. And then you need your own IP address that's been assigned for this room when you're running it. So that being said, we are going to now answer these questions with our event viewer. So I'm going to try to see if it'll work if I just kind of keep it in split screen. If not, we'll just go full screen with this whole thing. So we're just going to type event viewer, and this is obviously going to be a little bit slow, I imagine. I should probably close all of my other browsers too. Let me close all the other browsers, make sure I'm not using too much bandwidth here. All right, so here we go. Event viewer is officially up. So now, this seems to be a security event. So they had access to the file server. Security team was determining the username and IP address of the compromised system. They haven't given that information to us. So all we have is just the series of questions that are going to lead us through this investigation. There is one hint over here that says the subject details inside the user account creation log is when we actually go through the user account created. So really what we're going to be doing is we're going to be filtering these based on the event IDs that we just saw, because it says, what is the name of the last user account created, which user account created the above account, on what date was that user account enabled, and did this account undergo a password reset as well. So all of those event IDs have been given to us right here. So we are going to most likely be using those specific event IDs. And we need to first go into the section for the security logs. So I'm going to try to zoom in here. And so we have our Windows logs. And when we expand this, we have application, security, setup, system, etc. So we're going to click on security, and it's going to update the middle pane right here. And it's going to show us all of the items, all of the events that are inside of the security log. And total number of events right now is 991 without any filters being applied. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to filter current log, and it's going to open up a new window for us. And then the first question is, what user account that was created on the system, the last one, so meaning the most recent one that was created. So we want to see which user account was created, and that would be 4720. So we're going to go here where it says all event IDs, and we're going to type in 4720. And then we're going to go down here, and we're going to click OK. And then all of those items that we had, the 991 items, have now been narrowed down to 3 items. The number of events are 3. So the last one, the most recent one, they were all done on the same day, but we're going to look for the one that is the most recent, which I would say is 12/56/27 is the most recent date and time. So we open this thing up right here, and then now we need to find the name of the information that was created. So we have the general information, and then we also need to have the actual user information that was created. So let's look at the details, and let's see what else we can find here. Okay, so I had to restart Event Viewer because it crashed on me when I tried to look at details. So I think there are some permissions that, or configurations that are not allowing me to do it. So I'm going to filter this one more time by the event ID of our specific situation. And then we're going to look at the bottom area right here to try to find that information. So this is the most recent event. We have it clicked on right here. Inside of this area, it gives us a little bit of information, and new account is right there. And it says the account name is also available here. And I think I should be able to see that in the general section as well. So if I just open this up, and if we go over here, user account was created, subject, new account. Yeah, we actually do see that here as well. So the account name is what? Hacked. That's the account name, which obviously is just too obvious as as somebody who creates an account. But for the intensive purposes, they want to make it easy for us to notice these things. But it's the account name or the SAM account name. So that would be the answer to the first question. Now it says, which user created the above account? So let's go see what user created the above account. So if we go right here, it says the account name was the administrator that created that above account. So let's see if we can administrator. That is indeed the answer. Excellent. On what date was this user account enabled? So now we want to go and try to find the user account enabled event, which is 4722 is when that user account was enabled. So we're going to go back to our filter right here, and then we're going to change it from 4720 to 4722. And then the events are going to update real quick, and they already did. Okay, so now we want the one where it says when they were enabled, and it's just looking for the date. So I mean, all of these things say 6/7/2024, but we do want to confirm that it's the user account that was indeed enabled. That is the hacker user account. So let's see which one was actually enabled. In this particular case, the hacked account was enabled on 6/7/2024. So there we go. So we're going to do 6/7/2024 and press enter on that. Perfect. Now, did this account undergo a password reset as well? The format is either a yes or a no. So we'll just go ahead and verify that as well. So the password reset, an attempt was made to reset an account's password. 4724 would be the event. So we're going to go over here. We're going to filter that out, and we're going to go to 4724. And then we have two events right here. And let's see what accounts they actually belong to. Administrator for the user hacked account name has actually been applied to it, and it says audit success. So that actually means that the user account password was successfully changed. So we are going to say yes to this right here. And there we go. That is our final answer, and we're officially done. So Event Viewer really makes this easy. If you weren't able to notice already, it's very, very easy to do something like this. And it's just one of these very invaluable tools that makes Windows so popular among security analysts and companies that have a lot of employees, because it's like a part of the operating system that actually has the event viewer and your ability to search by event IDs and do investigations, etc. So it's very, very user friendly. It comes pre-embedded, it comes standard with the event viewer software, and that allows you to search for various events inside of your event logs. And as you saw, we can see all of the major categories of the event logs. And then there are even application events or the application logs that we didn't really get a chance to look at, but there's an entire section dedicated to application. And then when you click on that, it shows you all of the different applications, all of the foreground and background applications that are inside of the Windows machine, and then all the logs that are associated with that. So there's a lot of great stuff that shows up with Event Viewer inside of Windows. Now, we can now go look at the web server access logs. The web server access log keeps all of the access events that were done for a given web server. When you want to view a website, or when you want to log in or upload a file into anything, all of these things would be logged in the web server access logs. These are just a few of the requests that are done to a website. And the log file contains all the requests that are made, along with the information on the time, the IP addresses that made the request, the types of requests that they made, the URLs, sometimes the commands, all of those things, right? So these are done for this particular case. This is an Apache web server, so it's going to be the Verilog Apache access log location where it would hold that information. And there's the IP address, right? In this particular case, this is the IP address of the user who made the request to your IP address. There's the actual timestamp, the request that they made. So this was a get HTTP request, meaning they were trying to get information. They were trying to load information from the web server. And then the URL in this particular case, that / represents the root, the index, the like the base location on the actual web server. If this had, / images, they would be trying to access something from the images directory of the web server, right? So, but the / just represents the root portion of the web server. Oh my God, my accent is like really kicking in. The root portion of the web server. And that's what they're going to be making their request on, right? If it's a put request or a post request, that's usually when they're trying to send data to the web server. So they're trying to fill out a form. If it's a put request, they're trying to make an update to their profile, maybe something like that, right? So it just depends on the type of HTTP request that they are making. And then we have the status code 200 in this case, being that this was actually a successful response. Anything that's inside of the 200 range is successful. And then we did something for the web fundamentals, or the networking fundamentals, where we were looking at the various status codes that can be actually applied to the HTTP requests. That would be the responses from the web server that would tell us if it was a successful request, or the response was a successful one, or if if we're not allowed to access something, if the web server crashed. All of these things have their own series of status codes. The user agent in this particular case, it's usually it's a very long field, and there's a lot of data from it. And now in this case, we see that the user's operating system, browser, all of that stuff is in here. So we have Mozilla, Macintosh, Intel Mac, Apple WebKit, etc., and then Chrome, Safari were the user agents, right? So it was on a Mac computer, and then either Chrome or Safari was the web browser that was used to make the request. And that's essentially it. This is like the main type of information, the main categories of information that you can find for each event inside of the web server. Now, if you're using a command line to actually look at the contents of this, there are a lot of different ways that you can look at it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to essentially just kind of outline these things by looking at the thing in full screen. So I'm going to open it up in full screen. I'm going to open up this in a separate page so that we can actually look at the command line strictly as we go ahead and input all of these different commands. And then you can kind of see everything in a live environment. Instead of me having to read through everything, I'm just going to look at it in the full screen mode. And then from here, we're going to just look at the instructions. So first and foremost, we are looking for the access log. So first, I'm going to open up my terminal. I'm going to zoom in on this for you so that you can actually really get to see what is going on here. And I don't think the access log would actually be in this root location. So if we do an ls here, we definitely don't have it here. So it would be in the var log location that they mentioned earlier, that would actually have our access log located in it. And I think for the purposes of this specific room, there is a task file that they want us to look at anyway. So the task file that we're supposed to be looking at is inside of the rooms directory, and it is the logs location. So if I do rooms, and if we look at this, we have all this stuff. So we're going to go into logs, and then we have the access log. So that's the log that we're supposed to be looking at to answer the questions that we have for the remainder of this exercise. So this is our actual log, right? So the access log is our actual log. So now there's a way that you can do this where we can go ahead and be like, okay, I just want to see what's inside of this, right? So if I do not car, if I do cat and then do access log, what it's going to do is it's going to print everything that is inside of this log onto my screen. It's literally printing everything that's inside the log. And in this particular case, there's a lot of stuff. So there's very many lines of events that are inside of here. You can see there's get request, post request, so on and so forth. So it doesn't really help me if I have to read through each one of these piece by piece, okay? I can technically, if I needed to, I can combine various logs, and I'll just show you what this looks like real quick. So if you have multiple logs and you want to make sure that all of the events from these two logs are inside the same log file, then you can do cat, which what you just saw, it displays everything for you, right? So if you do cat the log 1 and then cat log 2, and then you use this little forward arrow thing or the greater than symbol, and then you give it a new log name, it'll take the contents of these two, and instead of displaying them onto your screen, it's going to put them inside of this log file. It's going to output the contents of these two inside of this log file. And then when you want to search through all of the events, you can then just search through this instead of having to search through each one of these individually. Okay, so that's what cat does, and that's how you can combine the contents of two log files. Now, what happens is that, again, if you have a lot of events, as you just saw that we do, the thing that we need to do is we need to search through those things. So if we need to search through something, then we need to go ahead and use something called grep. And grep is a very powerful tool. And you can use grep to search for the contents of a given directory, or you can use grep to search through the contents of a file. So let's say I want to see all of the post events, all the events that had a post request inside of my access log. It'll actually show me everything that had a post request, and the output is going to be much shorter than what we saw when we were looking at all of the requests. And it even nicely highlights that, okay, this is where I, for each one of these events, I see that there's a post element inside of the event details, and then now it shows me all of that information. So very, very, very useful. There is another way that we can kind of, condense or maybe shorten the output that we would see so that we can sift and sort through it a little bit easier. And that is done using the less command. So if you want to analyze the chunks of something by just looking at a section and then another section and another section, we can use the less command. And the less command allows us to look at this one page at a time. So you can see at the bottom right here, it still says access log, and then this is essentially one page right here. Right, so I can't scroll up or down, or I guess I couldn't scroll up, but every time that I scroll down, it takes me to the next page, and then it'll take me to, come on, scroll down. There we go. So it'll go one page at a time, and it'll take me through next page. You can also just use the space bar to scroll to the next page instead of scrolling if the scrolling is not reliable. And then every time I press the space bar, it takes me to the next page and the next page. And so it's still the entire log file. Okay, so you're still searching through a lot of information. So what we can do in this particular case maybe is we can do something like this. We can do less access log. Or actually, no, that doesn't even make sense. So I could probably do something like this. I can do grep, and I can grep all the post stuff from the access log. And let's see if we can pipe this into the less command to look at it. Yeah, there you go. It worked. So we can look at all of the posts, but now we're looking at it page by page. And so I press space, it takes me to the next page. Press space takes me to the next page. And then I'm at the end of the page, or at the end of the output. And now we're done. And then I can just press Q and exit out of that. And that's how we can look at that. There's a lot of different ways that you can search through files, and you can look for patterns of things. There's a lot of really, really great ways to actually search for something. And all of that is included inside of the Linux Plus tutorial that I have on the channel, or the the kind of like the crash course for becoming a Linux system administrator. All of that stuff is really easily and readily available on this channel. So I'm not here to teach you how to use Linux. I'm here to teach you how to go through log files. And basically everything that we've covered so far is enough for us to be able to answer the questions that we have inside of this task that we have. So after running the less command, there are a few different items that they want to share for us. So it says, the logs would be displayed in pages one after another, making it easy. If you want to search for something in the logs, you can type / followed by the pattern that you're searching for and hit enter. You can use N to navigate to the next occurrence of your search and capital N to navigate to the previous occurrence of your search. So we can do that right here. So we can again do less access log. And in this particular case, let's say I want to search for something. So I'll just do / and then I'll say put as my search, and I'll press enter. And now it's going to search for the first instance of put. Now I want the next one, so I'll just do N, and then it'll show me the next few ones, and then I can do N again. It'll show me the next few ones. Now if I do Shift N, which is a capital N, it'll go back to the previous searches that I found. So that's an easy way that you can search through the results page by page by looking for an individual pattern or a piece of content or something like that. So in this particular case, we are looking for the phrase put, but if I do less access log, let's say, and then from here I want to search for an IP address. So I'd be like 192.168.1.1, press enter, and it'll show me the times that IP address actually shows up. So that IP address has searched or tried to access my web server, trying to pull information from my about page. It's trying to pull information from my products page. And if I do N, it'll show me the next one, again, products, and then about, and then N again, about. So this is basically it, contact page, things like that, right? So this is the very, very basics of trying to sift and sort through a log file. So now that we actually have these various techniques that we have been taught, we can actually go through the questions that we have here. So it says, what is the IP address that which made the last GET request to the / contact page? So what we're going to do is we're going to do a cat of the, or I don't even need to do that really. I can just do grep, and then I can do / contact, and then I can search for that inside of the access log. And so we have these elements, and it's looking at the IP address of the last request that was made. And so if we look at all of this, this is June 6, 2024, and then the timestamp is gradually increasing. I believe 16, 13. No, so it seems like it's actually the most recent event is going to be at the very, very top. So the last request would be done by this IP address, I believe. The most recent event is going to be at the top. So I'm going to copy this, and let's try that as an answer. I feel like that is actually the answer, but maybe not. That's not the answer. Okay, so let's see here. Oh, my bad. They're saying what was the last IP address that made a GET request, and this IP address made a POST request. So the one that made a GET request is this one, 10.0.0.1. So 10.0.0.1, and that is the right answer. Okay, so I didn't pay attention to the request that was being made. So the last one that made a GET request was this IP address. The next question is, when was the last POST request that was made by 172.16.0.1? So this is, technically I would say this is the answer right here. I feel like this is the last POST request, but it's technically against the IP address or the contact page, and we want to see what POST request entirely was made. So we can actually pipe the output of several commands into each other. So I can technically do grep, and I can do 172.168.0.1, and then I can access, sorry about that, the Amazon guy dropped off a package and my dogs lost their freaking minds. What we can do is we can take the output of one grep request, and we can, or grep command, and then we can pipe it into another one. So I can do grep and then look for the IP address that we need to look at. And then I can also do grep and then do a post, and let's see if this actually works. So if we go for this, now we can see all of the post requests that were made by this IP address. So we've double filtered essentially, right? And so what we're looking for is just the most recent post request that they made, which is at the very, very top right here. And we need this full chunk of data right here, this timestamp. So we're going to copy that entire thing, including the milliseconds at the very end of it right there. And then we're just going to paste that whole thing. And that is indeed the correct answer. Excellent. Now it says, based on the answer from question number 2, to which URL was the post request made? And this is the URL, the /contact. And that is our last answer. And we're done. We're officially done with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to close this out. I'm going to refresh this page because I want you to see that we actually did get all of those questions right. And there we go. So we got all the questions right. The last IP address that made the GET request. Oh my gosh, I hate it when this happens. Hold on one second. All right, there we go. So we have the IP address that made the last GET request, which was 10.0.0.1, the timestamp of the last post request by 172, and then the URL that they made that request, which is the contact page. So that's pretty much it. So as you can see, the logs are very, very useful, and we can get a lot of really good information from logs. And depending on the type of operating system that you're running. So for example, the first example was Windows operating system. And then in that we had the event viewer, which has a graphical interface, and it makes it a little bit easier to filter through the contents of that. And then what we did as our filters was the event IDs, but you can technically filter the same way that I just filtered here by looking at post requests or IP addresses and trying to narrow down what IP addresses try to access your network, etc. So Windows event logs or Windows event viewer will allow you to sift and sort through all the various logs inside of the graphical interface. And then what we just did right now was using the command line of a Linux system to actually go through the web server log files. And you saw how simple it can be to actually search for something inside of a massive log file and narrow it down. And then you can even double filter, right? So you could do, grep the IP address and then feed the output of that into another grep command and say, okay, now I want to see all of the post requests that were being done by this specific IP address. And then you can even feed that into another command and still keep narrowing down your search results to filter and hone in on whatever the results are to actually get the information that you're looking for, especially if you just have, this was a small log file. Technically, this was a very small log file. There were not that many items in here. If you're looking at a web server file that's been around for several months or several years, you're going to be looking at thousands, if not millions of lines of data, which is insane to think about, but you have to be able to sift and sort through all of that data. So this is what grep comes in, and then there's different types of ways that you can use grep or various other search commands that we could use. And grep allows you to use regular expressions, which is very powerful, and it's a really cool, the regular expressions patterns are really useful. I'm kind of going down the rabbit hole now. I'm going on a few different tangents here, but I've covered regular expressions on the channel. I've covered using Linux command line to search for things on this channel. So if you're interested in this kind of stuff, you can definitely go ahead and search for, Linux Plus, for example, and go through the Linux Plus training series, and you'll get a lot of really good information about how to use Linux to do a variety of different things, including grepping, searching through data and finding the data that you need. So there's a lot of amazing stuff that's available that you can do on either Windows or Unix/Linux operating systems. And all of those things are helpful for sifting and sorting through log files to find the events of interest so that you can complete your investigation. If you got value out of this video, I do encourage you to like, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell so that you get notified the next time that a video comes out on this channel, especially inside of the CySec101 playlist that we just went through right here. And the CySec101 playlist is almost complete. I keep saying that in every video, but we are getting close to the end. We're definitely in the latter half, the second half of CySec101. So I think we have like 3 modules maybe left, and there were a lot of modules. So when you say 3 modules, and there were that many, and the last module is not even like a big module. It's just more like, okay, here's how to find a job in cybersecurity kind of a thing. So that's pretty much it for this. So drop a comment if you have any questions, especially if you had trouble going through the contents that we went through today. Make sure that you like, subscribe, turn on notification bell so that you get notified when a new video comes out, especially there's Network Plus that's coming out. There's the security training that's going on with the AI integration to actually combine AI API with the API of various security appliances to actually create your own security officers, like your AI security officers or security assistants, so to speak. And all of these things are very, very important, especially as we progress deeper into the age of AI inside of cybersecurity and things like that. So all of these things are very, very important. And again, if you want to stay in tune, right, if you want to actually get notifications of that, make sure that you like, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell so that you get notified the next time that a video comes out. And of course, drop a comment, let me know what's up, let me know if you have any questions. If you'd like to support this channel and get access to me on Discord, consider joining the Hackaholics Anonymous membership community. We have 4 tiers: the supporter, agent, guardian, and master, and each tier gets their own Discord server and early access to content. The agent, guardian, and master levels get exclusive content, bug bounties, exclusive downloads, monthly Python automations, live streams with me, plus so much more. And to join, you can simply click the link in the description below, or you can go to our homepage and click the join button there, or you can go to youtube.com/@HankHacksHackers/join, and you will be able to join Hackaholics Anonymous and get access to me on Discord. I really hope I see you in the Discord chats. If not, I hope I see you in the comments section, and that's it. It's your boy Hank Hackerson at Hank Hacks Hackers, your favorite network and system attacker/protector. Love, peace, and chicken grease. If no one else loves you, Hank loves you, and I'll see you in the next video. Later.